Emperor of the Desert. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, An Inexplicable Call. Wow, if he had done this earlier, he could have upgraded his abilities and attributes. But it's not too late to think about it now. Next, I'll knock on the heads of brother and sister Pao, and then knock on the heads of the brother and sister of the leader, and also knock on the heads of the Shirai brothers and sisters, and the Queen of Shokuo. Wow, at least 5k will be earned this time? Speaking of which, I don't know how much bounty the brother and sister of the leader have. It seems that the current bounty and combat power are not quite equal. For example, when Accelerator is in the White Wing state, he belongs to the second echelon of combat power in the entire magical index. The demons and characters like the big bald corns are in the first echelon. The top of the second echelon is the leader with a broken right hand. Don't mention the D-level anti-army, at least there are C-level or above anti-city, and as for the B-level anti-country, it should be possible. But just now, he took advantage of the situation to knock over Accelerator's D-level bag, which means it depends on the power he shows now. What about the leader and others? Forget it. Let's not worry about this for now. What he cares about now is something else. Qin Ren turned his sight to the hole where the box was hidden. Although the ground collapsed because of Accelerator's use of power just now, it could not affect the ground 100 meters deep. After he upgraded the blood of Shurima to F level, he felt a faint sense of calling. Something was calling him, and the source was in the box. Wasn't there satellite debris in that box? Why was it connected to him? He was not a satellite spirit, but no matter what, he had to check it out. This strange sense of calling was the first time he encountered it. After looking around and confirming that there was no one still awake, Qin Ren remotely controlled the gravel around the underground box to move. The power of 750 kilograms. Although the extra consumption was reduced, it was still a lot of extra mana to operate remotely at this distance. It's better to get closer. After saying that, he confirmed that there was no one else around, then released the Corona Dragon and left the factory building with all the circuits destroyed. After taking a look at the props who had been knocked unconscious and had not yet recovered, Qin Ren came to the top of the box, between two concrete blocks that were lifted up by Accelerator's power. This should be a good shelter. To ensure safety, Qin Ren condensed the sand under his feet and formed a yellow sand tower under the ground. The expanded vision allowed him to confirm the location of the box while ensuring his own safety. Officially start work, Qin Ren muttered to himself, and then controlled the sand and soil directly above the box, closest to the ground. After peeling off the top layer of concrete that had not completely collapsed, another layer of different soil was peeled off. By the way, it seems that the range of the size of the gravel that can be controlled has also widened. After operating for half a minute, Qin Ren finally dug a 100-meter deep pit. It is indeed a bit of a waste of mana to keep the deep pit from collapsing while digging. Then, he took out the box. Unexpectedly, the box was not as heavy as the metal parts it contained. Some of them were light, not to mention dozens of kilograms or hundreds of kilograms, even less than 10 kilograms. Wait a minute, I didn't look carefully at what was in the box before, but now I see. Isn't this thing a sun disk? Qin Ren finally lifted the box out, but the box seemed to have an electronic password lock. If it had a keyhole, he could use sand as a key to unlock it directly, but the sun disk, and this extremely strong sense of calling, Qin Ren directly adopted the idea of violently opening the box, using his own strength to peel off the particles at the lock core of the box. Although he had no way to electronically unlock the lock, he was not inferior to anyone in violent unlocking. The ascended blood obtained after strengthening allowed him to quickly open the lock. Sure enough, lying in the box was the sun disk. No, Tano said before that the satellite debris was here. Why is it this? Confused for a while, Qin Ren squatted down and was about to touch the sun disk. However, when he touched the sun disk, a wave of distorted time and space emerged with him as the center. The 7th School District, a windowless closed building, This completely closed tall building without any windows or doors stands here. The material that made up the completely closed building was said to be strong enough to withstand the impact of a nuclear bomb. In this completely closed building, it was also pitch black. In the wide space, there was nothing that could be called lighting equipment, only countless huge machines connected to screens and buttons. Thousands, tens of thousands. The equipment in the entire building could not be counted individually with quantifiers such as pieces or units, and the number of interconnected equipment could not be determined at all. Those scattered lights that could not be called lighting were lit up from these huge machines. There were also countless cable pipes spreading towards the center, connected to a huge cylindrical culture tank in the center. It was like the relationship between the heart and the blood vessels. This huge cylindrical culture tank was the most important thing in the entire building. In the cylindrical culture tank filled with orange-red liquid, a person wearing a light green patient suit was suspended upside down in the liquid. Like a man and a woman, a scientist, a magician, a scholar, a mediocre person, a teacher, a student, a criminal, a saint, any human possibility can be seen in this person. Perhaps it was the possibility of possessing all human beings, or perhaps it was the possibility of abandoning all human beings. Because of this particularity, even the slightly undulating lines on the chest made it difficult to determine whether it was a man or a woman. The only way to know her gender was the information that was circulated outside. A-lister Crowley was a woman. This person closed her eyes and floated in the water without any movement. Her long silver-white hair swayed slightly in the water, like seaweed. When the Qin people touched the sun disk, she suddenly opened her eyes, finally left. Sure enough, is it from the same place as the sun disk containing unexplainable power? But, wasn't this thing hidden by the Egyptian magician in the deepest barrier of the Red Pyramid in Dashur, Egypt? How did it appear here? As she was talking to herself, a figure quietly emerged next to the culture tank. Just like A-lister, it was difficult to determine her gender, but the long golden hair, the tall figure shining with light, and the loose white cloth covering the limbs and torso, at least from the appearance, it looks like a man. It covers all emotions, including joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness. But the deepest part hides an emotion that is obviously different from human emotions, and the expression is extremely flat. Because Nephthys did something. The voice of the figure was mixed with noise, just like the noise produced when the radio signal is unstable. Things that do not belong to this world should be allowed to leave as soon as possible. A-lister in the cultivation tank was extremely calm, as if everything was under control. Really? A-lister just smiled. Then, her sight turned to the 17th school district through the hovering loop. Next to a deep pit, a human-shaped statue condensed from sand and in a half-squatting position was slowly collapsing. When the imagined breaker touched his body but was unable to expel him, the demons realized that he no longer belonged to this world. The male figure continued, "It seems that your plan to turn him into a chess piece to deal with the Egyptian demons will not succeed. I never planned this way. The demons are not so easy to deal with. I have made preparations, but even if they are hit by my weakening spell, there are still demons that still have enough power to replace the phase once. I need to obtain as many of their body parameters as possible." A-lister's face was indifferent, as if she did not feel any loss because of the setback in this plan. "I just used him to test the reaction of the demons and let them expose more parameters." Nephthys reacted to this outsider. "What about you? Did you get the parameters?" "Maybe, maybe not." A-lister, floating upside down in the tank, answered ambiguously. "P.S. I have written up to chapter 100, so I will leave for now. The power limit of magical index is too high. The demon god can easily reset the entire universe. Even Dragon Ball cannot beat magical index. I will come back in the future." When I wrote unexplained calling in the chapter title, a sentence subconsciously emerged in my mind. "Uncle, come and play." I feel like I am hopeless. What do you think the next world is? Hint. It is a place where you can learn poses. The first chapter will be updated in the evening. It seems that the convention of writing infinite flow is to change the map world every 100 chapters. By the way, why is it a change of map every 100 chapters? Where does this convention come from? Chapter 102 Pre-volume data. Preface to the previous volume. Forward. When it comes to showing off and being cool, My P5 is the best in the world. By the way, P5 of this volume takes place in Shibuya, Tokyo. I checked the map, and Ikebukuro is not far northwest of Shibuya. Speaking of Ikebukuro, it's Durura. So that's right, I'm going to write P5x Durura. By the way, merge the map of Durura with the map of P5, and merge Shibuya and Ikebukuro. It's become a comprehensive manga. Oats. I originally had a lot of ideas for magic changes, but it seems that if there are too many magic changes, it will. Too many elements warning. Speaking of which, it seems that the enhanced version of P5 will be released in a few months. As for magical index, of course it's not finished yet, but the highest level of magical index is too high. Even Dragon Ball can't beat it, so change the map. Change the map. Actually, the main reason is that I have already written 100 chapters. By the way, I will post the attributes of Qin people at the beginning of each volume. Real name, Qin Ren. Race, descendant of God. Bloodline, ascending bloodline. Attributes, health, 100% 2G, health regeneration /5S, 1% 2G, armor, 2G plus 45% G, attack power, 2G plus 40% G, attack speed, 2G plus 60% G, mana, 100% 5G, mana regeneration /5S, 1% 5G, magic power, 5G, magic resistance, 5G, movement speed, 2G, attack range, 1050 yards, critical hit rate, 1%, momentum, 62%, bounty, 1837 yellow sand gold coins, items, D-level yellow sandbag X1, E-level yellow sandbag X2, G-level yellow sandbag X1, G-level certificate, 30, F-level certificate, 9, E-level certificate, 1, Lost Sun Disc, equipment, Guardian Angel, G, Guardian Angel, G, plus 45% G attack power, plus 40% G armor, unique passive, when receiving fatal damage, it will stagnate for 4 seconds and then resurrect on the spot, recovering 50% G health and 30% G maximum mana, cooling time, 300 seconds. Skills, 1, Blood Talent Middle. Ascension Bloodline, F, able to control small solid particles around, manipulate them to move and change. The higher the mana and magic power, the stronger the control and the number of controls, the greater the consumption, the farther the distance. The normal power is 0.5 F, affected by magic power. The maximum additional magic power is 0.5 F, and when exposed to sunlight, it will gain a slight increase. 2. Mana Flow Attack, G. Shoot your own mana in the form of pure energy. The normal power is G, affected by magic power. The maximum additional magic power is G. 3. Sand Soldier Appearance, G. Passive, gain 60% G level attack speed increase. Active, summons a yellow sand soldier, which continuously consumes mana. The farther the yellow sand soldier is from the user, the greater the consumption. The strength of each attribute of the sand soldier is G, and the additional strength is affected by the magic power. The maximum additional bonus is G. 4. Sand Rush, G. Let all yellow sand soldiers rush at the same time. Yellow sand soldiers will cause G-level damage to all enemies along the way and temporarily slow down. The maximum additional magic power bonus is G. 5. Quicksand Shift, G. The user rushes to the side of a yellow sand soldier, gains a shield that can withstand 1 G-level damage, and causes G-level damage to enemies on the way. Affected by magic power, the maximum additional magic power bonus is G. 6. Forbidden Army Wall, G. Condensed yellow sand forms a human wall composed of multiple yellow sand soldiers and charges forward, repelling objects along the way and causing G-level damage. When the human wall exists, mana will be consumed continuously. Except for the user, no object can pass through the yellow sand human wall through charging skills. Affected by magic power, The maximum additional magic power is increased to G7. Legacy of Shurima. G. After a short channeling, summon the sun disk. When there is no defense tower ruins, the channeling time is increased and the existence time is shortened by half. The sun disk will automatically attack nearby enemies, with damage of G, and the bounty obtained by the disk will also be obtained by the user. Affected by magic power, the maximum additional magic power is increased to G. The sun disk will self-destruct 1 minute after it is established, and it will be destroyed faster when attacked. If the user dies while the disk still exists or is too far away from the disk's armor will be reduced to 0. Sun disk. G. HP. 100% G attack damage. G. Up to plus G extra. Attack speed. 0.833/S basic armor and magic resist. G. Up to plus G extra. Attack range. 750 yards vision range. 1095 yards true vision. 1000 yards unique passive. Reinforced city defense. When there are no enemies weaker than G level nearby, gain additional G level armor and magic resist. Unique passive. Ignore dodge. Sun disk's attacks cannot be dodged. Unique passive. Heat up. Sun disk's first 3 attacks deal 40% increased damage, with a maximum damage of 220% after 3 attacks. Unique passive. Keep heat. Heat damage is no longer partially reset after the defense tower changes targets. Unique passive. True vision. You can see invisible units within 1000 yards. Unique passive. Iron line. Reduce 30% of damage above G level. This effect disappears after health is less than 70%. Damage is reduced before armor reduction. Chapter 103 P5 is the best in the world. P5R will be released in May or June. It was pitch black in front of him. This was the only image in Qin Ren's mind. He seemed to be moving in a certain direction, but there was nothing on the route, only pitch black. Qin Ren recalled that when he touched the sun disk, he was pulled out of that body. The body in Academy City was not a living body, it was a pile of sand condensed, with his will attached to it. He had died a long time ago. When he slapped his computer, he exploded and died. Should he be called a soul body now? The body in Academy City was formed by his soul attached to the sand, and the reason why his soul can always exist is because the power surging from the yellow sand space maintains his body. To be more precise, it is the so-called Sherman blood. No, it should be called ascending bloodline now. He has not been reborn at all, and is still a dead person. No, dead ghost. When he was in Academy City, he lived completely in the state of consciousness or spirit, which should be said to be attached to the sand. His real body is the half-man, half-eagle consciousness that looks very much like Izir in the yellow sand space. Shurima, I'm not a human anymore. After complaining in his heart, Qin Ren remembered another thing. The moment his bloodline was upgraded from G to F, the entire yellow sand space became much more solid. If the previous picture quality was 320p, then now it is 480p high-definition picture quality. At this moment, he felt that the original forward movement suddenly stopped, and he seemed to have entered a small container, so crowded. Hey, get up, get up. Qin Ren couldn't help but open his eyes as a voice sounded. A middle-aged man with a worrying hairline, a beard and hair connected into a piece, and hair that seemed to have thickened edge lines, raised his glasses. I was wondering why you didn't move for so long. It turns out you fell asleep. If you want to sleep, go to the bed over there, as he said. The skinny middle-aged man with a vicissitudes of life voice looked around. Although this was just a storage room before, it is your room now. If you don't make it clean, you will be uncomfortable. As he said, the middle-aged man turned and left. I will accompany you to Shujin Academy to handle the formalities later. For the next year, you behave yourself. If you don't cause any trouble again, your observation punishment will be over. Qin Ren, who was still a little confused about the situation, listened to the other party's words and looked at the other party's ankle-revealing and white shoes outfit like a young man in society, and fell into deep thought. Where has he seen this uncle before? Looking at this dirty place that looked like an attic storage room, Qin Ren fell into deep thought. Just as he began to recall, he turned up a bunch of memories that did not belong to him. Kurisu Akatsuki. Observation punishment. Wait, is it P5? The boss is Sakura Sojiro. P5, Person 5, Personality Mask 5, is a derivative work of Persona. Qin Ren has not played all the original Megami Tensei series, but he has played all the P series. He likes this world very much. According to his memory and what the boss said just now, he is at the beginning of the story in the normal timeline. The original protagonist of the game was punished with observation for his bravery. After all, the object of his simple bravery was Shido Masayoshi, who would later become the Prime Minister of Japan. Moreover, the object of his bravery, the female extra whose name he did not know, was actually a subordinate of Shido Masayoshi. The other party did not dare to retaliate, but instead made false testimony, making the brave protagonist Kurisu Akatsuki become the perpetrator. Then, the owner of this store took in Kurisu Akatsuki because of a friend's request for help, and sent Kurisu Akatsuki to the nearby Shujin Academy High School, excluding the beginning of the flashback. This is the real beginning of the story. In this world, there is an unnatural existence called persona, which is translated as personality mask. Unlike the mid-demon in the original work, this personality mask is generated from the bottom of the human heart. Jungian psychology says that everyone has a personality, and personality is composed of masks. Persona, abbreviated as personality mask. A mask is a sub-personality, or a side of a personality, and the manifestation of personality mask will be expressed in the form of myths or various legends. If a person's psychology is rebellious, such as the gay version of the protagonist Kurisu Akatsuki, Ryuji, this person's personality mask may become a representative of resistance to totalitarianism such as Captain Kid and Monkey King. Of course, they are not real mythological characters, they just show this appearance. To put it more simply, in one sentence, this persona is the spiritual symbol of this person. This setting from Jungian psychology has a total of 4 types: personality mask, anima, animus, and shadow. Although there are some differences in details, in general, they are all another self born from the heart. Simply put, the stage of P5 is an urban supernatural story centered on Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. In this world, everyone has another self in their hearts, and this other self appears in the form of various legends, myths, heroes, novels and even fairy tales. This other self is called persona, which means personality mask. Personality masks live in a world that is similar in appearance to reality. The protagonists can enter this world and affect these personality masks. When the personality masks are affected, they will affect the real person. The protagonists use this power to punish evil and make the evil people surrender and repent. They call themselves the Phantom Thieves. Speaking of which, it seems that the animagus in Harry Potter also comes from the anima and animus in Jungian psychology. This is a digression. The protagonist of the P series corresponds to the player. There are naturally many players, and everyone has different personalities. Therefore, the setting is that the protagonist is different from the general supporting characters and passers-by, and can collect different personality masks. Of course, this is just an explanation for the setting. The real reason does not need to be explained at all. If you only use one mask to play the game, the playability is too low. Speaking of which, the 4th generation's chief is still the real son, but the 5th generation's protagonist is not bad. Much better than the 2nd generation's chief Sahu and the 3rd generation's chief Kitaro. After roughly understanding the current situation, Qin Ren stood up from the ground. He could feel that now, this body was gradually getting stronger. It can't be said to be getting stronger, but this weak body is recovering to the attributes that Qin Ren should have. Looking at the cabinet next to him that looked more than 100 pounds, Qin Ren reached out, grabbed the edge, and lifted it up with force. It was a bit strenuous. Put it down, and lift it again. It was a little easier. After a few minutes, he was able to lift the entire cabinet easily. Shurima, your emperor is back. The system interface appeared, and the attack power column was extremely clear. Attack power, 2G plus 40% G, based on G. Attack power equals 150 kilograms. He is now 2.4 G, which is about 360 kilograms. It can probably lift 360 kilograms of things. Of course there are errors, but he is not sure how much it is. After all, there is no detailed measuring machine here. Let's look at the ability. Control particles and clean the room. By the way, thanks to the book friend who is Yuan for the reward of 2,000 starting coins. Chapter 104. The Key to the Dark Power. There was no obstruction at all. All the dust and sand, wood chips, and paper scraps scattered around flew up under his will, turning into an arc and flying into the trash can next to him. The messy piles around were also easily lifted and placed by him. Speaking of which, he still had more than 1,000 gold coins. Should he upgrade the magic power first to increase the attack power of the sand, or upgrade the mana limit first to increase the upper limit of the controlled sand? Or should he increase the mana recovery speed? After thinking about it, Qin Ren still chose to improve the magic power first. Do what you say. This world is basically still very safe. Let's open all the gold coin bags first. Let's start with the smallest G-class bag. You got 1 yellow sand gold coin. You got 763 yellow sand gold coins. You got an F-class certificate. You got 218 yellow sand gold coins. You got 5,749 yellow sand gold coins. Bounty, 1837 yellow sand gold coins. 8,568. F-class certificate, 9, 10. 8,568. Let's upgrade the magic power first. The upper limit of mana and the recovery speed are another matter. He did it as soon as he thought of it. In an instant, he felt the power in his body surge again. In the yellow sand space, a group of power condensed in the center of the sun disk and poured into his body. In an instant, he felt that his control over the sand became stronger. In the attribute column, the description of magic power also changed. Magic power, 5G, 1.5F, 1F equals 10G. If converted in this way, 1.5F now is 15G, which means that he can exert a force equivalent to 1,500 kilograms, 1.5 tons, through the sand. It can lift 1.5 tons of things through sand, or hit someone's head with a force equivalent to 1.5 tons. 1.5 tons, this will definitely kill you. However, at this time, he suddenly noticed that there was a disk in his inventory that was exactly the same as the sun disk, and in the center of the disk, a lost sun disk, a disk that is made based on the sun disk and seals something. As the designer, Qin Ren certainly knew the way to open the seal. Qin Ren walked to the stairs and looked. After confirming that Uncle Sakura was not there, he walked back to the bed and looked at the lost sun disk in the inventory. He took a deep breath and stuffed the overflowing shame in his heart back to the bottom of his heart. The seal that hides the power of the sun. Show me your true power. In the name of your master, Izir Qin, I command you to lift the seal. Accompanied by a sound effect of a building collapsing that only he could hear, the lost sun disk in the inventory released a bright sunlight and suddenly collapsed. Millennium Key can open the door of the soul, peek into the inner world of a person, enter the heart of a person like opening a door, can peek into the inner world of a person, can make the target switch between the material and the illusory state. Lost sun disk debris, like a part of something. Shameful punishment. This life is over. It feels like the door to a new world has been opened. Originally, he had set up the spell to remove the seal with the mentality of playing a joke. But, it is too embarrassing to recite it by himself. The origin of that spell, those who are a little older should basically know it. It is the spell of the scepter of his childhood goddess Sakura. When he was making the game, the clear card chapter happened to be released. So, he made the spell like that. So exciting. It feels like life has reached its peak. After a few minutes, Qin Ren, who recovered from the state of loss of shame, looked at the item in front of him and pondered. The Millennium Key is part of the 7 Millennium Artifacts. The Millennium Artifacts are from Yu-Gi-Oh! DM, and are the key props that connect the storyline. They are the Millennium Brick, the Millennium Eye, the Millennium Scale, the Millennium Key, the Millennium Wheel of Wisdom, the Millennium Staff, and the Millennium Jewelry. Different Millennium Artifacts have different powers, and what he said in the setting copy is that after collecting the 7 Millennium Artifacts, the 7 magical, lost sun disk remains. that are sealed are put together. These 7 lost sun disk remains will gather together, and then Azir will be summoned. After passing Azir's trial, or defeating him, the game will be cleared for 1 round. This is the copy he said, and there are still many details that have not been perfected. But now, forget it, put these aside, and look at the front first. The Millennium Key may be useful in the world of P5. In the world of P5, people with too strong and twisted desires will form a magic palace in the impression world, and this Millennium Key, the holder of UGIO, Zyadi, has used this thing to enter the hearts of many people. In other words, he can also use this thing to enter other people's magic palaces. However, according to the plot, a navigation system should appear inexplicably in his mobile phone app, which can lead the protagonist into the demon palace. Speaking of this, Qin Ren took out his mobile phone. The flying dragon video rendered in the Academy City is gone. Of course, this mobile phone is the mobile phone of the current body Kurisu Akatsuki, not Izir's mobile phone. Wait, ? Qin Ren was suddenly stunned, then turned on the phone, found the camera function, and looked in the mirror. Whether it is the game version and the comic version of Kurisu Akatsuki, or the anime version of Amamiya Ren, they should be a high school student with black curly hair, dark gray pupils, and glasses. But the appearance of the man reflected in the mobile phone is a young man with short light golden curly hair and glasses. The eyes are golden. It's like a fusion of Izir Qin and Kurisu Akatsuki. Is this still a 9-ship jump? Qin Ren was slightly stunned. The man who pursues 9 girls at the same time, the man who has 9 girlfriends under his feet. The protagonist of the game version and the comic version is Kurisu Akatsuki, and the anime version is called Amamiya Ren. When Qin Ren played, although he conquered all 9 lines, there was nothing he could do. He still liked the queen-type characters the most, and he didn't want to conquer many of the female characters. No matter what, let's swap out the ghost mask and the sand monster arm first. Ghost mask, G, plus 35% G spell power, plus 20% G health. Unique passive, madness. When fighting with the enemy, you will cause 2% more damage every 1 second. Maximum 10%. Unique passive Eye of Pain, plus 15% G spell penetration. Spell penetration will ignore the target's magic resistance to the same value, thereby increasing magic damage. Bounty, 8568, 8468. Magic power, 1.5F, 1.5F plus 35% G. Health, 2G. 2G plus 20% G. Chapter 105 will be available on February 1st. Please support us. The moment he put on the equipment, he felt that he had become stronger. This feeling is really amazing. Then there is Gaara's Sand Arm, G. With the arm as the base point, use the sand to turn into Shukaku's arm to attack, with a basic strength of G and a maximum additional strength of G. When holding the item Sand Shukaku, the skill effect is additionally enhanced. Bounty, 8468, 8368. The scorching hot wind flowed in his consciousness, and how to efficiently condense sand to form a huge sand arm to launch an attack appeared in his consciousness like data decompressed by a computer. This move is quite powerful. The Shukaku arm, which is more than 10 meters long and several meters wide, does look scary. Moreover, if he could exchange for a sand Shukaku, this skill could be further enhanced. Unfortunately, he didn't. After spending some time to confirm his various situations and after all the skills could be used, Qin Ren breathed a sigh of relief and lay down. The spell just now was too embarrassing. Qin Ren wanted to take a break and relax. I am you. You are you. You will sign a new contract here. The contract is the rebellious wings that want to break the cage. A strange self-talking sound spread outside the yellow sand space. Qin Ren, whose consciousness was in the yellow sand space, suddenly found that a golden butterfly appeared on the road connecting the yellow sand space, the consciousness space, to the body. Invisible and intangible, it was like an illusory butterfly in a dream. Qin Ren remembered a setting in P5. In the world of the P series, there is a person, or an existence born from the collective unconsciousness of mankind. He always observes the material world from the perspective of a bystander and will not interfere with the material world, because he himself is also a part of the collective consciousness of mankind. If he must be defined, he is the collection of the rationality of all humans and all lives. Everyone has the opportunity to see him, and he will guide everyone who can be guided. This person is called Philemon, the master of the subconscious space, and his usual appearance is a golden or blue illusory butterfly. He created a puppet named Igor, gave life to the puppet, and made the puppet the owner of the Velvet Room, a world that connects dreams and reality, and communicates between the conscious world and the material world. At this moment, the golden butterfly suddenly disappeared, as if it had never appeared. In front of him, an illusory, feather-like strange shadow appeared. It seemed that there was also a space inside. Space, Velvet Room. Speaking of which, if he replaced the protagonist Kurisu Akatsuki, would he meet Igor? Enter the Velvet Room. While he was lost in thought, Qin Ren felt that in the inventory, the 1000-year key embedded in the center of the sun disk lit up. Millennium Key? Qin Ren was a little confused. And at the moment when he had this thought, in his palm, I don't know when, the 1000-year key was already lying there. This nearly 40 centimeter long, golden thing is more like a scepter than a key. Seeing this, Qin Ren blinked. It makes sense to use a key to open the door. As he said, Qin Ren floated towards that space. I have gained the wind of freedom raised by the birth of the personality mask called the Fool. Freedom is coming, and it will become a more powerful force. Qin Ren came to the side of this space that looked like a feather. He touched the 1000-year key in his hand, and one end of the 1000-year key touched this strange space. At this moment, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. A door suddenly appeared in the space that looked like a birdcage. The door was opened from the inside. A little girl wearing a police uniform, shorts, and white socks extending to her calves stood by the door. She raised her head, adjusted the police hat marked O O on her head, and stared at Qin Ren with her golden right eye. The little girl seemed to have the characteristic of being speechless, and her left eye was covered by an eye mask. Then, she stood aside and made way. Is this a twin? Qin Ren thought. In the Velvet Room, there were others besides Igor. P3 was a boy, and P4 was a queen. P5 was a pair of silver-haired twin girls. What were their names? Qin Ren stared at her for a few seconds, then stepped in. Inside the room, there were countless metal railings, forming a birdcage-like prison. However, the moment he stepped into the room, the scenery of the entire Velvet Room suddenly changed. The Velvet Room, which was supposed to be a birdcage prison, suddenly collapsed with prison-like metal fences, disintegrating into countless yellow sands, and the whole world expanded in an instant, turning into an endless desert, and under their feet, it became a soil and sand building like an Egyptian temple. At this moment, the little girl standing at the door and the other twin standing in the birdcage prison also looked at the changes around them in some astonishment. Qin Ren himself was also a little confused, but then he remembered a setting. The scenery of the Velvet Room will change with different hearts. Like the protagonist Jejeje no Kitaro in P3, the Velvet Room is an elevator that rises infinitely. The Velvet Room of the son of P4's 8-ship jump is a luxury car. The Velvet Room of the 9-ship jump otter in P5 is a birdcage prison. As for what the 8-ship jump and the 9-ship jump are, there is no need to care at all. Speaking of which, P3 has a theatrical version, P4 has a TV animation, P5 also has a TV animation, and another series outside the story, Devil Survivor 2, also has a TV animation. Atlas is really amazing. They have produced so many animations adapted from games. Except for Type Moon, it seems that no other work can compare. At this time, he heard a slightly annoyed voice, "Prisoner, what did you do?" The other twin, the little Lily who seemed to have an impatient personality, waved her hand vigorously and pointed at Qin Ren. "It's just a persona." "What did you do?" The two twins were wearing costumes similar to police uniforms just now, but now they have become Egyptian-style light fabrics, and the police batons in their hands have also become Egyptian-style priest scepters. The eye masks of the two one-eyed dragons have also become white cloth bandages like mummies. It looks like Nito Lily, although Nito's hair color is not silver-white. This thought flashed through Qin Ren's mind. The irritable Lili and the twins stared at Qin Ren, staring at Qin Ren's half-man, half-eagle posture, and waved the scepter in her hand vigorously. What on earth did you do, persona? In other words, I am regarded as a personality mask created by someone. Wait a minute. At this time, Qin Ren remembered something very important. P.S. As the title says, this book will be on the shelves on February 1st. Well, 5K collections will be on the shelves, according to the subscription ratio of 50-1 or 100-1. It is basically doomed. Fortunately, I am only a part-time job. If I really rely on writing books to make a living, I will starve to death. If you plan to write a book, just treat it as a hobby and part-time like me, and don't quit your job to write books full-time. Although the impact of grades is not that big for me, even if I don't rely on writing books to make a living, the subscription grades will still affect my mood for writing books. Well, let's see how the situation is. I have to go back to my hometown for the new year on the 1st, and then come back to Hangzhou on the 7th to continue working, and the update may also be affected. Chapter 106. That's Igor, the old man who looks like a goblin. Where did he go? Thinking of this, Qin Ren turned his attention to the silent little Lili and the twins. What's your name? Because his consciousness is completely the appearance of Izir, he looks very imposing. I'm Ristina, the silent Lili answered while looking at her desert-style outfit. What did you do? The other irritable twin obviously didn't mean to answer him, and waved the Egyptian-style scepter in his hand angrily. Ristina. What's her name? Qin Ren looked at Ristina and asked. Shazouth Carolina. The silent Lili responded, gently shaking the scepter in his hand, obviously very interested in the new outfit. Ristina and Carolina? Qin Ren wrote down the name, and then continued to ask, are you the only two here? Where did Igor go? Speaking of this, he remembered one thing, that is, in the Velvet Room of the P-series, the old man who looked like a goblin in front of him was replaced by a new voice actor because his voice actor died. In the game, the official made the death of the old man an event. In other words, Igor in the Velvet Room is not the original Igor in the P-series, but a fake one, a false god. Because the true identity is not yet known, it is called the false god Igor. When Qin Ren played P5, he did not pay attention to the plot in detail, but he often saw such posts in the forums and forums. Where did the evil god Igor go? Why are there only twins here? Where did the evil god Igor go? The master is not here now. Carolina glared at Qin Ren with an unhappy face. You persona, this is not a place you can come. Leave quickly, otherwise, you will be executed. Carolina waved the priest's staff in her hand vigorously. In P5, 2 or more personality masks can be fused, and the way of fusion is beheading, and the execution is carried out by the twin Lili. However, Qin Ren was not worried at all. He was not a personality mask, nor did he have no means of resistance. Speaking of means of resistance, since the Velvet Room was transformed into a desert scene, Qin Ren felt that he could control the sand around him. Logically speaking, isn't this an illusory space between consciousness and matter? The things here should also be illusory. Why can he control the sand here? With a thought, the yellow sand surged with his will and condensed into a huge desert flying dragon behind him. After condensing, Qin Ren realized that this was not the Velvet Room. Isn't this the gap between consciousness and reality? It's okay that he can control the sand in the yellow sand space, but why can he control the sand in this place? By the way, is there anything in common between the yellow sand space and the Velvet Room? It looks pretty here. Should I follow the settings of this Velvet Room? It would be great if I could get the Velvet Room. At the same time when he had this thought, countless quicksands in the yellow sand space rolled up and surged out of the quicksand space, sweeping towards the Velvet Room, like a giant hand trying to grab the Velvet Room. However, the next moment, Qin Ren felt a strong sense of rejection. This uncomfortable feeling made Qin Ren leave the Velvet Room without any hesitation. At the moment he left the Velvet Room, a blue butterfly flashed leisurely at the edge of his sight, and the Velvet Room in front of him had disappeared. 2 giant hands formed by the sand that surged out of the yellow sand space passed by him and grabbed nothing. Sichuan Tea House, Luberon Coffee Shop. Qin Ren opened his eyes. He almost didn't react to what happened in the consciousness world. From what happened just now, we can know that, first, his yellow sand space is indeed a space, and its form is similar to the consciousness space. Second, the yellow sand space will act because of his will, just like a part of his body. Third, as the master of the subconscious space and the collection of all life's rationality, Philemon should know that he is an outsider, but he doesn't know whether he doesn't want to do anything to him or doesn't have the ability to do anything to him. Fourth, I don't know where the false god Igor has gone, and I don't know whether Igor knows of his existence. However, speaking of it, the twins in Egyptian costumes look really good. Because he entered the velvet room, the entire velvet room was influenced by him and turned into a desert theme, and the twin girls also changed into Egyptian costumes. However, because he wanted to get the velvet room, the yellow sand space took action and scared the velvet room away. No, the disappearance of the velvet room may also be Philemon's doing. In other words, he missed the velvet room, but forget it. It doesn't matter. Qin Ren turned his attention to the Millennium Key in the inventory. Compared with those things, he paid more attention to another thing, which is the third point. Millennium Key can open the door of the soul and peek into the inner world of a person, just like opening a door to enter the heart of a person, can peek into the inner world of a person, and can make the target switch between material and illusory states. The Millennium Key can transform the target between the material and the illusory. Then Qin Ren injected mana. Instantly, a golden object appeared in his hand. It looked like the top of a cross was removed, leaving only the T, and then a teardrop-shaped ring. This thing looked the size of a book. How big a lock can be inserted into such a big key? Qin Ren gently tossed the Millennium Key in his hand. And then he remembered that the Millennium Key was on the card of Resurrection of the Dead. Resurrection of the Dead is a prop that can be resurrected. So, logically speaking, can the Millennium Key resurrect people repeatedly? But in any case, it is not as good as the Resurrection Armor. After that, Qin Ren tried the Resurrection Armor and the Ghost Mask, and they were able to present the Resurrection Armor and the Ghost Mask in a material state by consuming mana. And the consequences of his laziness and not drawing the texture also appeared. The Ghost Mask was completely Azra's Eagle Mask, and the Resurrection Armor was Azra's upper body armor. Looking at the Millennium Key in his hand, an idea suddenly popped up in Qin Ren's mind. Can he use the Millennium Key to make the yellow sand space descend into the material world? Maybe? Hey, are you not done yet? At this time, Sakura Sojiro's voice came from downstairs. I've done it. Qin Ren stopped the continuous supply of mana, and the Millennium Key in his hand gradually faded and disappeared. Chapter 107 Monster in Ikebukuro. Seeing Qin Ren coming down the stairs, Sakura Sojiro couldn't help but look at him. Finally, you're down. By the way, there's one thing. This is a coffee shop. Although there aren't many customers, don't make any noise when there are customers. Oh, Qin Ren nodded. When he played P5, he acted as the protagonist, and now he is also possessed by the protagonist. He doesn't feel any sense of disobedience. Alas, Sakura Sojiro, whose hairline is worrying, sighed. I originally planned to wait for you to rest for a day, but it's better to finish this kind of thing as soon as possible, and you look very energetic. No problem. Qin Ren didn't feel anything, but he wanted to go to Shujin Academy to take a look. The reason is the bounty. In Academy City, there are characters with different strengths, and there are different bounties after defeating them. But in this world, people in reality don't have much strength. In other words, does it mean that every person he kills only has one gold coin? Then he can only knock out more than 10 million people in Tokyo. Speaking of this, there is no hovering loop monitoring in the Academy City, and there is no one who can stop him. It should be no problem to knock out more than 10 million people, it's just that it's difficult to upgrade without a certificate. The possible solution is to go to the monster, the Magic Palace and Impression Space in P5. In this world, in addition to the material world, there is also an illusory world corresponding to the material world. This world can be called the spiritual world, or the impression space, a space generated by people's impressions. This space is based on the real world and is a world distorted in people's will. After all, People have more or less distorted desires that are different from social standards, whether good or bad, but because the degree of distortion is not high, it will not form a large magic palace, but because of the large number, in the spiritual world, or the place called the impression space, these people's distortions will be spread all over the impression space. If people's desires are too distorted or deviate too much from the general standards of society, a magic palace or hall will be generated. If the previous one is a small distortion point, then the magic palace is a large distortion point. Simply put, according to the degree of a person's mental distortion, a distorted space will appear in his mind. For example, a middle-level manager of a company thinks he is very powerful and that others will do things because of his will, which will distort the place into a place similar to the king's castle, and accordingly, the distorted personality in his mind will become the king of this castle. This castle is a kind of magic palace. This is a situation where the degree of distortion is quite high, and it is very common if the degree of distortion is not high. It is like the difference between a single-player game and a multiplayer online game server, and the distortion of each person in the impression space is basically presented in the form of persona, that is, personality mask. As mentioned before, these personality masks are the other self of the owner, and they are basically presented in the form of characters in various legends, myths, and stories. Although people in the real world do not have any superpowers, in the impression space, these mythical characters have various powers and skills. Qin Ren wondered if he could get the bounty by killing these monsters. However, it is a bit of a pity, because if he replaced Kurisu Akatsuki, then his personality mask would not be Arsene. Arsene, whose full name is Arsene Raoul Ropintanger, is a famous thief, adventurer, and detective created by French detective novelist Maurice Leblanc, and is as famous as Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. Speaking of which, the names of this coffee shop, Leblanc and Leblanc, are only different in translation, which can be regarded as an Easter egg in P5. In that case, let's go now. I'll go change my hat first. Uncle Sakura Sojiro nodded, put down the coffee he was about to make, and walked into the inner room. When he got out of Sakura Sojiro's car and stood in front of the gate of private Shujin Gakuen High School, he suddenly felt something flying towards their car from a distance. Attack speed, 2G plus 60% G, which represents the value of reaction force, made Qin Ren quickly aware of this matter. According to the landing point, this thing might smash the left side of the car into pieces. Subconsciously, Qin Ren controlled the sand and lifted the flying object a little higher. Something that looked like a vending machine flew over the top of the car and hit the road behind it, leaving a big hole in the ground. Such a big commotion also made Sakura Sojiro look back. Could it be that little brat Shizuo again? Turning his head and turning his sight towards the direction where the vending machine was flying, Sakura Sojiro raised his hand and shouted loudly, "Hey, Shizuo, you little brat!" Throwing things around again. At this time, a frivolous voice sounded behind Qin Ren and Sakura Sojiro. Yes, uncle. Daojin is really violent, throwing vending machines randomly on the street. He might be prosecuted for damaging public property. Sakura Sojiro turned his head and took a look. Oh, it's Sorihara. As he said that, he glanced at the blonde man who was running wildly in the distance, and seemed to understand something, and waved his hand. Don't damage my car, otherwise I will sue both of you. After that, he walked into the gate of Shujin Academy Middle School. Qin Ren was a little stunned at this time. Wait a minute, Orihara? Shizuo, headless? Is there something wrong? Isn't this the world of P5? Why are there characters from Darura? Because P5 is a spin-off of Persona? Also with Darura. This far-fetched explanation was not even believed by Qin Ren himself, but the black-haired, slender, handsome and delicate-looking man in front of him, wearing a black coat, with a gray fur edge on the edge of his hat, and a smile of "everything is in my hands." But no matter how Qin Ren looked at him, he could only see a hint of bad taste in his smile. On the other side, the man who was carrying something that he didn't know whether it should be called a street lamp or a lamp post with his strange strength and rushing towards this side, had the features of blonde hair plus blue sunglasses that were extremely similar to Tsuta Mikado, and the bartender uniform on his body. Damn flea, don't run, let me beat you up. Ziojin, it's not good to be so violent. Urahara Izaya replied with a smile, while pulling out a folding knife. He didn't want to believe that these two people weren't Hajime Shizuo and Urahara Izaya. Hey, Kurisu Akatsuki, Kurisu Akatsuki, Kurisu Akatsuki. It wasn't until Sakura Sojiro's last roar that Qin realized that the other party was calling him. He took a few steps forward and followed him. P.S. Is P5 so unpopular? I thought the game community should be familiar with P5. As for Dororo, it should be quite famous, right? Chapter 108. That's why I hate school. At this time, Hajime Shizuo, waving a street lamp, rushed towards Urahara Izaya, and Urahara Izaya showed a wicked smile and began to dodge with ease. However, in Qin Ren's eyes, it seemed that he was trying to induce Hajime Shizuo to destroy the things around him. Qin Ren still couldn't fully react as he watched the two of them walk further and further away in the loud noise. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that the man in the bartender's uniform is called Hajime Shizuo, and is known as the strongest man in Ikebukuro. You saw his extraordinary strength just now, right? Being hit by something like a vending machine is not something you can just laugh off. Sakura Sojiro adjusted his white hat, his tone full of annoyance. If you see him angry, stay as far away as possible. The other one is called Urahara Izaya, an information dealer. Those two often fight like this. Thanks to those two, there are quite a lot of troubles in this area. After saying this in a disdainful tone, he turned around and continued to walk forward. Don't worry too much about their affairs. Complete your admission procedures first. If you get into trouble again, you will be expelled immediately. It will be troublesome for our school to accept a student with a criminal record like you. The fat principal of Shujin Academy, with his big belly, looked at Sakura Sojiro and Qin Ren who were standing in front of the desk. Mr. Sakura, you have to be careful and don't let him get into trouble outside. Okay. Seeing Sakura Sojiro nod, the principal turned to look at Qin Ren and the curly-haired woman next to him. This is your future homeroom teacher, Mr. Kawakami. If you have any questions, just go to Mr. Kawakami. I understand. Qin Ren nodded, took the student ID from the curly-haired woman in front of him, looked at the Chinese characters second grade and Kurisu Akatsuki on it, and felt a little emotional. I'm going to be a student again. If there is a place he hates the most, it is school. From the age of 6 to 22, he has been in school for 16 years. He doesn't want to touch textbooks anymore. After listening to the fat principal, whose fat accumulated to the point of leaking out of the sides of the chair, talking for 10 minutes, Qin Ren and Uncle Sakura left the school. Then, go back. Standing in front of the car, Sakura Sojiro said to Qin Ren. Qin Ren, who was a little confused because he ran into the characters of Dororo, certainly didn't want to go back like this. Uncle Sakura, I want to get familiar with the road. I will go back before closing the store. Uncle, you are really rude. Uncle Sakura scratched his head with a worrying hairline, put on his hat, and got into the car. Well, don't cause any trouble. After sighing, the other party drove away. Qin Ren also started to move. Whether it was for the original owner of this body, Kurisu Akatsuki, or for Qin Ren, this city called Ikebukuro was not a familiar place. The reason of being familiar with the route was not a lie. At this time, 2 men and 1 woman came towards him. The other 2 looked ordinary. Among the 2 men, only the yellow hair of the man on the left was a little eye-catching, and the woman, with short bob hair and glasses, didn't look special from the face, but her breasts. Today's students are really well developed. After taking a look, Qin Ren continued to move forward. However, the content of the other party's conversation made him interested. Masami, have you heard about the cripple thing? Huh? Cripple? Are you talking about the slasher? Jin, we talked about this all day yesterday. It's not the slasher, it's cripple. I heard that the cause of the frequent car accidents recently is cripple. Oh, maybe some secret laboratory has developed some medicine. As long as you spray it on people, the other person will become a cripple who covers his eyes and shouts Masami. I'm not talking about the pepper spray. Henry, have you heard about it? Yesterday morning's news. Masami? Jin? Henry? He might not recognize it if only one name appeared, but Jin, Masami, and Henry 3 keywords popped up in a row. In addition to the Hwajimishizuo and or Harai mentioned by Uncle Sakura before, the only one that fits this is Durarama the Headless Horseman. Come to think of it, have you heard of that girl named Takamakian? She's so cute. Unfortunately, there are rumors that she seems to be dating that Kamoshida. Tut tut, what a pity. Kamoshida is that kind of person, of course, Henry. In terms of sexiness, she can't compare to you. You are sexy and cute, Amasa. Masami, Jin, don't be so nervous, I won't steal your cute. Henry. Qin Ren just stood there and watched the three people walk into Shujin Academy. Ryugaman, Jin, Kida Masami, and Sanaharan Henry, the headless protagonist trio, in the Dullahan. Their school is called Shujin Academy, and at this moment, he found that the big-breasted girl Sanaharan Henry turned her head and seemed to notice him. After staring at each other for a second, the other party turned back. Speaking of which, Henry is the mother of the demon sword of guilt song. Wait a minute, if this is the world of P5 and the world of the Dullahan, what will happen in the future? Qin Ren suddenly had an idea. According to the setting of P5, then Henry, the mother of Sin Song, should also have a magic palace and a hall, right? Qin Ren took a look at the Millennium Key in the inventory. Should he try to open Henry's? No. Let's find an ordinary person to try first. If we look at it from the perspective of the mind and will, Henry, as the mother who controls countless children of Sin Song, should be said to be the strongest character in the Dullahan. Sin Song's knife seems to be able to cut off the soul, although he is not sure whether he will be injured or even killed directly. It is better to be careful. It is not a good choice to rashly open an ultimate boss, let alone a non-hostile ultimate boss like Philemon. Turning his head, Qin Ren left Shujin Academy directly. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Now, he can roughly determine how long he can stay in this world. When he finds the next Millennium Artifact, that is when he can leave this world. However, unlike the previous time when he could clearly perceive the sun disk embedded with the Millennium Key, this time, he did not feel where the other sun disk wrapped with the Millennium Artifact was. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Divination also requires the basic law. Qin Ren had a guess about how to sense the mechanism of the sun disk that hides the 1,000-year-old artifact. It was very common, and it needed to be within a certain range to sense it. The way to improve the sensing ability was to improve the bloodline level. However, the current bloodline, the ascended bloodline, is F level. To upgrade to E level, 10,000 gold coins and 10 F level certificates are required. He now has the F level certificate, but 10,000 gold coins are and made 1,368 pieces. He is still hesitating whether to exchange the remaining two, floating stone and cloth armor, or save gold coins to improve the attributes. Improving attributes is of course the best choice. Now he has only improved the magic power, and he really wants to increase the mana limit to F level, and the mana recovery to F level. Looking at his gold coin column, Qin Ren took a deep breath and made a decision. Bounty, 8,368 yellow sand gold coins, 6,368, G-level vouchers, 20, 0, dash, mana, 100%, 5G, 33.3%, 1.5F, dash, mana recovery /5S, 1%, 5G, 1%, 1.5F. What is a moonlighter? People who spend money on impulse and cannot control their hands are called moonlighters. Do you want to split one F-level voucher into 3 G-level vouchers? Yes/no. How should I put it? This kind of splitting is actually a loss. Why? Because it takes 10 lower-level vouchers to synthesize one upper-level voucher, and one upper-level voucher can only get 3 lower-level vouchers when split into lower-level vouchers. This routine is very common in games. In some games, there is only splitting means, not synthesis means. Now, Qin Ren is very glad that he has set the synthesis option, but how should I put it? If it is split, 7 will be lost out of thin air. Qin Ren was very hesitant, very hesitant. The mentality of the Moonlight Tribe is to spend money whenever you have it. However, the mentality of the petty citizen made him reject the uneconomical exchange method of splitting will lose 7 vouchers. No, well, difficulty in making choices. Why not exchange both the pumice and the cloth armor? After struggling for a while, Qin Ren, as a Moonlight Tribe, still couldn't resist the temptation. But, let's wait until the evening. Resisting the urge to exchange immediately, Qin Ren used a diversion method to distract himself and began to walk around. While thinking, Qin Ren looked around and walked around to a commercial street. His face, which was a mixture of Izil and Kurisu Akatsuki, was still quite handsome. Several girls who looked like they were probably junior high school or high school students talked about him for a few words. But that was all. They didn't come up to him to ask for his contact information, nor did they take pictures secretly. As he walked, Qin Ren came to the nearby entertainment street and suddenly saw a roadside stall. A female fortune teller with dull blonde hair and a blue-black headband was sitting in the stall. In front of her was a simple small table with a crystal ball and a stack of tarot cards. At this time, there was another customer sitting opposite her. A woman wearing a black tight leather jacket and a yellow-black helmet was typing on her phone and then showing it to the fortune teller opposite her. Is this Sister Sai? This outfit looks very much like the real protagonist in the Dullahan Night. Dullahan Night Kelty. Durura. The Dullahan Night is an urban supernatural group drama novel set in Ikebukuro, Tokyo. A boy who yearns for the extraordinary, a gangster who loves to find trouble, a stalker girl with a radio wave, a young man who enjoys being an information dealer, a secret doctor who specializes in unusual patients, a high school student who is obsessed with monsters, and so on. Ryuga, a boy who yearns for city life, accepted the invitation of his childhood friend Masami Kita to leave his hometown and come to Tokyo to enter Ikebukuro and go to school at Rira Academy. In Ikebukuro, there are several people who must not be provoked. The strongest human, Hajime Shizuo, has monster-level strength and self-healing ability. Or Haruizaya, an information dealer who runs an information house and likes to stir up trouble. It is called the Dakusai Gang, which is actually a gathering of low-class gangsters. The former boss of the Yellow Turban Bandits, Kita Masami. There is also a Dakusai Gang organization whose true identity is unknown, called Dollars, which is actually just a forum. The founder is Ryuga, a boy who worships the extraordinary daily life. These people are the ones Qin Ren has seen before. By the way, there is also a girl who holds the demon sword Sinsong. The demon sword can infect the injured person, making the other party become the demon sword's child, and then be controlled. In short, it feels like a zombie nest. The girl is called Sanaharu Nanri. Together with Kita Masami and Ryuga, she is called the Big Three. Of course, the most important character is the character linked to Durura, the Headless Horseman, the urban legend Headless Horseman, Kelty Strulson, the woman wearing a black tight leather jacket, riding a black motorcycle and wearing a yellow and black cat ear helmet, the Headless Knight Kelty. Qin Ren blinked and walked over to them to look at her head and the process of their divination. Want to find something important? The fortune teller girl read out the words on it, and then sorted out the tarot cards. Do you have any guess locations? Aren't you a fortune teller? Can't you help me guess the location? Kelty typed a string of words on her phone at a speed that even a single otaku who has been single for decades can't match. The process of divination to find something also requires divination many times. The fortune teller girl looked at the words on it, and then said, it can also reduce the difficulty and increase the possibility of finding it. First, you list the possible locations as much as possible. The smaller the range, the better. After that, I will divinate the location. Select the most likely place, and then divinate the direction of that place. Repeat this process, and the possibility of finding something will be greater in the end. Simply put, divination also requires basic laws. It makes sense. It makes sense. Qin Ren, who was listening on the side, blinked his eyes. It at least sounded logical. It seems that you have no idea where the things are. The fortune teller sighed. I can only help you to predict whether you can find it in the end. After that, the fortune teller began to spread the tarot cards on the table. At this time, Kelty looked at the other party spreading the tarot cards nervously. Originally, I was supposed to ask questions, and then turn over the cards one by one according to your answers, and get the results according to divination. But your situation is a bit difficult. Then, choose the cards according to your first impression, and just turn them all over. Da-da-da-da. Fingers tapped on the screen that looked like a mobile phone, and a string of words appeared. How many do you want to choose? Yes, the fortune teller thought for a while, and looked at Kelty again. You can choose as many as you want. How many are okay? Thanks to the book friend, you have questions. Don't talk for the reward of 100 starting coins. Chapter 110. It feels so good to have money, and it feels so good to spend money. Kelty hesitated for a moment, then turned over 4 tarot cards. I've chosen it. Looking at the words on the screen of the machine in Kelty's hand, the fortune teller collected all the other cards, then looked at the card array carefully, thought for a while, and began to interpret. The moon, the tower, the stars, the lover. In this positive and reversed position you will eventually find what you are looking for, but in the process of finding it, you will doubt the important people and feel pain. But accepting change can make both of you go better in the future journey of life. Qin Ren, who was standing by and listening to this series of words, couldn't help but be stunned and focused his eyes on the fortune teller. It's not because it's too ridiculous, but because it's too correct. Although I think this fortune teller is very accurate and powerful on the game, because it's a game, I don't have much feeling, but now, it's a bit incredible. Miss, have you read the script? Kelty, who was half believing and half doubting the result of the divination, paid 5,000 yuan, took the simple business card with Mifyun Chai Ai on it, and turned away. Only Qin Ren was left standing in front of the stall, with a look of hesitation on his face. The fortune teller Chai Ai Mifyun looked at Qin Ren standing in front of the stall and blinked. Do you want to have a fortune teller too? But I'm sorry, there are other guests who have made appointments today. Oh, here they come. As Qin Ren said this, he turned his eyes to the other side with her, and saw a girl who looked like a high school student. Miss Mifyun, your fortune-telling is amazing. Didn't I say before that I suspected that my boyfriend was dating other girls? I was very angry after seeing your fortune-telling results, but it turned out to be true. He was actually working secretly to buy me a birthday present. I'm so sorry. I came here this time to give you the money for the last fortune-telling. I'm so sorry that I left without paying last time. It's okay. Do you want to come for fortune-telling again? Other things are also fine. Okay. Looking at the 2 girls who started talking, Qin Ren shook his head and turned away. After spending 3 hours wandering around and getting familiar with the terrain, Qin Ren returned to the 4-room tea house and the Lu Brown coffee shop. Speaking of P5, this game on the PS4 platform was very popular for a period of time in 2016 and 2017. And an animation was released in April 2018. In short, the stage of P5 is an urban supernatural story centered on Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. In this world, everyone has another self in their hearts, and this other self appears in the form of characters in various legends, myths, heroes, novels and even fairy tales. This other self is called persona, which means personality mask. Personality masks live in a world with a similar appearance based on reality. This world is called impression space. The protagonists can enter this world and affect these personality masks. When the personality masks are affected, they will affect the real person. The protagonists use this power to punish evil and make the evil people surrender and repent. They call themselves the Phantom Thieves. While thinking back, Qin Ren opened the door of the store. I've said it before. No one here is willing to try your weird medicine. Do you want me, an old man, to try the medicine? Really? Are you back? Sakura Sojiro, who was talking to a customer, looked up at him. At this time, in front of the bar counter of the coffee shop, there was only a short-haired woman in a white coat, who looked like a doctor or a researcher. Who is this? The woman with short blue-black hair glanced at him. This is a friend's child, who transferred to Shujin Academy to study and is temporarily living with me. Sakura Sojiro didn't say much, and covered up some information that didn't need to be disclosed in a normal tone. Really? The woman blinked. I'm Take Me Mia, a doctor at another clinic in Shijinjaya. If you need anything, You can come to me. The same self-introduction as a common clinic doctor. Yeah, Qin Ren nodded. Is it really Miss Take Me? You can buy all kinds of medicines from her in the game. And his bland reaction made Uncle Sakura sigh deeply. You kid don't even know how to be polite. Uncle Sakura's reaction made Qin Ren stunned, and then he seemed to remember something. I Mikusu Akatsuki. Habitually, he almost introduced himself as Izir, but he realized it after he said it and changed it to Kurasu Akatsuki. Irasu Akatsuki? It's a rare surname. It's Akatsuki. Uncle Sakura turned around and brought the prepared coffee to Take Miya. Okay, go back to your room first. Oh, Qin Ren nodded, looked at Take Miya twice, and returned to the room. Although Miss Take Miya is pretty, she is more beautiful with long hair. After returning to the room, Qin Ren started to make changes. Exchange. Cloth armor, G, plus 15% G and other armor. Floating stone rush, G, on/off. When the user approaches the wall, a controllable floating stone will be generated. After leaving the wall, the floating stone will automatically dissipate. Moving through the floating stone can obtain a 20 to 45% G and other movement speed bonus, and the effect will only be triggered in a non-combat state. Bounty, 6,368 yellow sand gold coins, 6,168. At the moment when the floating stone was exchanged, the sun disk on the background of the exchange bar suddenly shattered. The next moment, a new sun disk condensed. A new exchange icon appeared on it. Skill, barrier, G, item, G level certificate X1, item, inventory grid X1, rune, phase rush, G, skill, fear, G. But Qin Ren, who had thought of something, clicked them one by one. Inventory grid X1, consumable, increase the inventory limit by 1 grid after use. Exchange price, 200 yellow sand gold coins. Phase rush, G, skill, when hitting an enemy hero with 3 independent attacks or skills, it will provide additional burst movement speed. Exchange price, 200 yellow sand gold coins. Barrier, G, skill, put a shield on you, the shield absorbs G and other damage, and the shield lasts for 2 seconds. Exchange price, 200 yellow sand gold coins. G level certificate X1, exchange price, 200 yellow sand gold coins. Inventory grid X1, consumable, increase the inventory limit by 1 grid after use. Exchange price, 200 yellow sand gold coins. Fear, G, fear a target, causing the target to move away from the user at a damaged speed. Exchange price, 200 yellow sand gold coins. The exchange price is 200 gold coins. Each time it is refreshed, the price of the exchanged item will increase by 100 gold coins. The initial price is 100 gold coins, and the 50 gold coins exchanged for the Zar skill are half the discount. Now it is the second refresh. In the game, because the gold coins that can be obtained at the end are not enough even if all items and skills are exchanged, he made such a setting. Why did he have such a bad hand in the beginning? Each one can be exchanged for 100 gold coins, and the price will not change. So, do you want to exchange? Barrier skills can save lives at critical moments, so you should exchange them. G-level certificates, 200 gold coins each is really expensive, but now it is actually quite scarce, so you should exchange it. Inventory grid, now his inventory limit is 30, from 30 to 31, you should exchange it. Phase rush, 3 skills or attacks can increase movement speed, so let's change it. Fear, G, this is Scarecrow's Q skill. Because of the skin of Sands of Rebirth, he also added Scarecrow's skills, which is pretty good. Let's change it. When he was about to exchange, a word flashed through his mind, impulse spying. P.S. I also copied the background introduction of P5 in this chapter to the first chapter of this volume. Speaking of which, P5 is so niche. Are there so few people in the game area who know about it? It was so popular at that time. P5 is not only a PS4 game, but also a comic, anime, and a pre-anime. Such a large series of works is so niche in Kidian. Chapter 111, Sandstorm plus Desert Prison. There is no desire to buy in advance, and the purchase is made temporarily without going through the normal consumer decision-making process. Seeing a certain product or some advertisements or business promotions arouses the desire to consume, and the decision is made to buy. In college, with the mentality of picking one at random, I took an economics elective course whose name I have now forgotten, and the words I learned emerged in Qin Ren's mind. Bounty, 6,168 Huangsha gold coins, 5,168. It feels so good to have money. It feels so good to spend money. But since the advent of the electronic payment era, Qin Ren has understood one thing very well. That is, electronic payment is less than actual cash payment, and the simple numbers on the screen are reduced, which can bring less real feeling of spending money than the reduction of cash held. When the balances of Alipay and WeChat are both zero, I will realize I have no money. Item, Negatron Cloak, G. Skill, Desert Prison, G. Item, Red Crystal, G. Skill, Sandstorm, G. Item, Iron Potion, G. Exchange Price, 300 yellow sand gold coins M. Do you want to buy more? There are 2 skills. Qin Ren looked at the remaining 5,168 yellow sand gold coins and felt itchy. No, I can't spend money anymore. I have to save them to improve my attributes. I will only exchange for skills. I will only exchange for skills. I will never exchange for the remaining 3. Bounty, 5,168 yellow sand gold coins. 4,568. Skill, Desert Prison, G. Continuously consume mana to extract moisture from objects that my right hand touches. Skill, Sandstorm, G. Consume mana to form a sandstorm with G damage. You can control the initial direction of travel, but as the distance of the sandstorm increases and its power increases, it will eventually become uncontrollable. These 2 skills are the skills of Crocodile, commonly known as Crocodile or Old Sand in One Piece. Desert Prison is to absorb moisture, and Sandstorm is similar to the Whirlwind Q of Happy Wind Man after 2 layers, and the Q of Wind Girl. Simply put, it is a tornado that appeared in the desert. Or should it be called Sandstorm? At this time, with the exchange of so many skills, the huge methods and memories of using skills poured into the consciousness. Qin Ren, who was overwhelmed for a while, lay on the bed, thinking about the complex experience memories brought by several skills, and fell asleep because of fatigue. In the boundless desert, countless sands rushed into the sky with the hot wind. The huge tornado raged in the boundless world of yellow sand, but the increasingly powerful sandstorm did not run around irregularly, but moved straight along a straight line as if controlled by some force. A half-eagle, half-human creature suddenly appeared at the edge of the sandstorm. The pale golden body shining with the sun's glory was not affected by the wind and sand at all. Whether it was the storm or the gravel, when they approached him, they deflected their trajectories and passed by him. Qin Ren raised his hand, and gently clenched his palm like an eagle's claw. After running straight for several thousand meters, the sand tornado, which had grown several times larger than at the beginning, suddenly exploded from the center. The wind and sand collapsed, and countless gravels scattered on the surrounding sand dunes, becoming part of the infinite desert. This was the first time that Qin Ren stayed in the yellow sand space for a long time. Speaking of which, the ability to control sand should be Set's, but Azir's appearance is undoubtedly Horus. Qin Ren muttered to himself, Set is the god of power, war, desert, storm and foreign countries, and Horus is the god of the morning sun, the god of kingship, the patron god of the pharaoh, the god of revenge, and the son of the underworld. Oh, and Anhur. Anhur is the name of Horus when he was a combination of Shu. However, no matter what, the inspiration for controlling sand and deserts should come from Set, as for which Egyptian god's abilities the designers of League of Legends mixed into Azir when they designed him, no one knows. Shaking his head, Qin Ren turned his head and looked at the huge city behind him, the sun disk floating on the huge base. It seems that in the background setting of League of Legends, the civilization system of Shurima is different from the river civilizations of China, and should be an oasis civilization. However, according to reason, oasis civilization is very miserable, such as the ancient country of Lulan, which was destroyed because the lake disappeared. The river was diverted, and the oasis disappeared. It is more reliable to regard the river civilization as the origin of civilization. After all, the initial origin of civilization can be said to be agricultural civilization. Large civilizations such as ancient China, ancient India, ancient Babylon, and ancient Egypt are all river civilizations. Ancient Egypt is indeed not an oasis civilization, but a river civilization that originated from the Nile River. Shurima should be a river civilization, which has developed into such a large empire. How can it be an oasis civilization? Wait a minute, it seems that in the background setting, Shurima seems to have conquered the entire runeland, but it doesn't say where it originated. Forget it. These are not important. After all, in a world with magic, it is not a fantasy for a powerful magician to use magic to open a river. He cast his eyes to the huge disk in the distance and the small buildings around the disk. At first, there was only the sun disk, but when he raised his bloodline level to F, some buildings rose from the sand. What about later? What if it is upgraded to EDKB or even S or beyond S? What will this place become? A city? A country? A world? It was originally an adventure RPG game, but now it feels like a construction and management game. In this yellow sand space, he felt a different situation from the outside world. That is, in this space, the power he can use is much stronger than the outside world. He knew very well that the huge sand roll with a diameter of 100 meters on the ground just now was impossible to do in the outside reality. Gently raising his hand, Qin Ren posed a proud posture. The quicksand in the endless desert rolled, flowing and condensing with the excitement of magic power, creating life-like yellow sand soldiers. With just a thought, thousands of yellow sand soldiers condensed in front of his eyes, as if they had been carefully trained. These thousands of yellow sand soldiers stood in front of Qin Ren in exactly the same posture, waiting for Qin Ren to issue orders. In the reality of the outside world, he can only condense about 10 to 20 yellow sand soldiers at the same time. The number of condensed soldiers varies depending on the material selected. If he uses corrugated foam as the material, there will be more, but it is hard to say whether it has any attack power. P.S. Speaking of Happy Wind Man, I can't help but think of the Typhoon Swordsman in the recent LOL official CG. Chapter 112. I can wear 10 rings. Then, he turned his side to the other side. A ball of light was staying there. It was the selfless soul left by the mercenary he killed last time. Since crossing over, he has killed only one person. However, he has a feeling that he needs to capture more souls, kill more people. Why? He is not sure. He can only say it is intuition. The yellow sand space, this huge consciousness space controlled by him, needs souls. He is actually quite resistant to killing people. Normal people living in a peaceful world, how can they want to kill people at every turn? How can they do such a thing? But, if it is not a human, what about cats, dogs, pigs, chickens, etc.? Wait a minute, this is the world of P5. Can those personality masks? Qin Ren's consciousness left the yellow sand space and appeared on Kurasuja's body. Qin Ren opened his eyes and stood up. In reality, several hours have passed during the time he was digesting and familiarizing himself with his skills in the yellow sand space. There is no sunlight in the sky outside the window, and there is only light outside without moonlight. Qin Ren walked downstairs. At this time, Sakura Sojiro had already left the coffee shop, leaving only a note on the table. Don't go out at night. If you cause any trouble, your observation and punishment will be in question. It's none of my business. Whether he stopped studying or not, it didn't matter to him at all. What's more, he just wanted to go out at night and use the Millennium Key to enter other people's hearts. It would be strange if he didn't go out. His eyes swept across the bar, and Qin Ren walked out the door without hesitation and came to the street. With his hands in his pockets as usual, he began to wander around the street. According to the setting that the more people's minds deviate from social standards, the more likely they are to form a demon palace. We have to find those who look like they have psychological problems. Then, if it's a criminal, it's almost certain. Thinking of this, Qin Ren controlled the quicksand and created a yellow sand tower under the ground. In an instant, within a radius of 1,000 meters, whether it was people drinking and eating meat in the store, people chatting on the road, people playing games at home, people having sex in the alleys, and people running and exercising at night, all appeared in Qin Ren's perception. The next moment, Qin Ren removed the yellow sand tower. In fact, if possible, Qin Ren still didn't want to erect the yellow sand tower in a crowded city. Why? Although you can see the benefits of young girls, mature women and other bathing benefits, you can also see various disgusting pictures. What exactly is disgusting? Qin Ren didn't want to say it, just thinking about it made him want to vomit. Let's walk slowly to find it. This world is not as dangerous as the magic index. It doesn't matter if it's a little leisurely. Before taking action, it's better to change your clothes. Under the viaduct a little distance from the street, Qin Ren thought quietly. The next moment, he used the power of the Millennium Key to materialize the mask and armor. In an instant, his appearance became that of Ezra. Because he was lazy, he made the icons of all the equipment look like Ezra's armor. The ghost mask is Ezra's eagle head. The resurrection armor is Ezra's armor. Now he has not exchanged the remaining 3 items in the exchange project. If exchanged, the Negatron cloak will look like Ezra's armor. The red crystals and blue crystals look like the gems on Ezra's armor. I don't know if I can equip them at the same time. In the game, he set the equipment according to the parts of the human body. Adaptive helmet and ghost mask belong to the head. Outlaw armor and Negatron cloak belong to the upper body. Giant belt and hexed prototype belt belong to the lower body. By the way, the belt was originally a belt column, but there is no equipment such as pants and law, so he merged the belt and the lower body. Ninja Tabi and Berserker Greaves belong to shoes. Killing ring, Doran's ring, etc., like the red crystal and blue crystal, belong to accessories. By the way, he followed the reasonable settings. Rings can be worn 10 times, and can be equipped with gloves at the same time. In fact, it is just because there are only a few types of rings, and the attributes added are not particularly many, so it doesn't have a big impact. But now, he feels that what he did is really right. Unfortunately, he originally wanted to make a joke and wear 10 rings on his feet, but he thought about it and decided not to do it. Then the Phantom Dance Seraph Staff and so on are all weapons, and he can take 2. In order to be able to equip all the equipment, Qin Ren set up a lot of equipment slots to fit the reality as much as possible. And now, after the materialization, Qin Ren is a little embarrassed. He has no lower shoes now, which means that his upper body is Ezra's posture, but his lower body is the original pants and shoes. Let's borrow the armor of the yellow sand soldier to wear it. After saying that, he controlled the quicksand and condensed it to his lower body to form armor. After getting familiar with the action, Qin Ren turned his head and turned his sight to an alley. Just now, a group of guys who didn't look like good people walked in. Okay, we can start the action. The sand yellow armor grabbed the neck of the man who was grabbed by Qin Ren with one hand, and slapped Qin Ren's armor with his hands. Let me go. Let him go. Monster. Damn it. When his companions cried for help, the other 2 also picked up stainless steel water pipes and smashed them at Qin Ren. Although close combat is cool, it's better for mages to stand farther away. Swinging his arms, the power brought by the 2.4G attack power, the power that can easily lift a 360 kilograms weight, threw the man who was pinched by the neck and lifted him out, and knocked the other 2 to the ground. The man who was thrown out as a projectile, after knocking over the 2 people, turned more than half a circle in the air, drew a twisted arc and crashed to the ground. The heavy collision knocked him unconscious, but he did not pass out. He endured the pain and crawled forward with his limbs in a panic, trying to escape. The chill brought by the night air did not reach him. At this moment, his whole body was filled with pain, and even the coldness from the concrete floor was blocked. Like an ordinary person who encountered a terrifying monster, the man fled in panic. However, when he subconsciously looked back to confirm the other party's position, he suddenly found that the target that frightened him had followed behind him. No, not the same one. The man widened his eyes. The one in front of him was not a monster with a monster's head, a monster-like strength, and the ability to pinch his neck and lift him up. The one in front of him was more like a human, like the knight in armor in the foreign movie he watched with his last girlfriend. Thanks to the book friend Akita Colonel for the reward of 1000 starting coins. Chapter 113. This filter is quite dark. The man stared at the strange soldier in front of him with wide eyes, backing away nervously. The object of his fear was standing on the other side, behind the man dressed as a soldier. The most strange part about the man in strange armor was the part above the neck. It should be an eagle head or a bird head, just like the monster headgear worn by people in special effects movies. Is it a person? A person wearing a headgear. When the man got up in a panic and wanted to continue running forward, a shadow suddenly passed by his neck and pierced the ground. It was unknown how much strength the other party had used, let alone what kind of metal this thing was. The weapon, like a spear, pierced the ground diagonally, leaving a small pit in front of him. The broken concrete fragments splashed on his head and neck. If he was not mistaken, the spear had penetrated at least 20 centimeters. No, 30 centimeters. The frightened man swallowed his saliva, turned around slowly, and looked at the other person. What do you want to do? I'm from Dallas. As if he had gained courage, the man's voice became firmer. We, Dallas, are the biggest force in Ikebukuro. Even Blue Square and Yellow Turban thieves were defeated by us. Dallas? Dollars? Qin Ren was slightly stunned. How to say dollars? It should be a forum, post bar. It seems that in Durura, there are several forces similar to gangs in Ikebukuro. Blue Square and Yellow Turban thieves are such gangs, or should it be called young and dangerous? In short, it is a group of gangsters who gather together, form gangs and think they are very powerful. Dallas is also considered to be such a force, but in fact it is just a spam forum, post bar, QQ group and other online chat rooms. However, it is true that the more powerful people in Ikebukuro are in this place called Dallas, but this does not mean anything. Qin Ren was only slightly surprised, and he didn't feel anything. More important than this is that Qin Ren's palm was empty, and the 1000-year key was held in his hand. Seeing the same strange object suddenly appear in Qin Ren's hand, the man couldn't help but take a step back. Want to kill me? ? He was a little terrified, and his expression became more distorted. Fear and panic intertwined on his face to form a weird expression. I don't remember provoking any forces, and I don't know anything I shouldn't know. Did you recognize the wrong person? Wait. Are you a slasher? This sentence might be a joke between friends in normal times, but the man didn't have the leisure to joke at all. Chirping. It's very noisy. Qin Ren glanced at the two men behind him who fainted because of their heads hitting the ground, and then looked at the one in front of him. You. Who are you? I didn't do anything. For the man, this situation was completely inexplicable and terrible. They just followed what the young man in the fur-collared coat said, and gathered in this alley, waiting for a porter to deliver the things, and then handed them to the young man in the fur-collared coat. After getting the things, after completing these jobs, they can get a lot of rewards. Although they thought there might be some dangers, they also prepared steel pipes for this. But why did this happen? At this moment, he felt a pain in the back of his head. The force coming from behind, while breaking up his consciousness, brought impact force, causing him to fall forward face down. Looking at the three people who fell, Qin Ren sighed. This man said a lot of words in a jumbled manner, which was more annoying than his boss. Then, he clenched the 1000-year key in his hand and injected mana through the ring on the 1000-year key. Qin Ren looked at the man on the ground. The next moment, a twisted black and red vortex appeared in front of the man. Raising his hand, Qin Ren held the key and inserted the key into the twisted black and red vortex. The black and red vortex spread, and Qin Ren could clearly feel that he had stepped from one space into another. The feeling of returning to the yellow sand space is a little lighter. What came into Qin Ren's vision was a world that was almost exactly the same as the real world in terms of appearance. However, this place seemed to have been changed in color, and the colors of all objects tended to be red and black. It was as if reality was covered with a red and black filter. Even the moon in the sky was replaced by a red moon. Impression space, the spiritual world, an illusory world formed by people's cognition. He was standing in the alley just now, and in front of him, 3 people appeared. They were the 3 people he had just knocked down. They were wrapped in red and black light, like evil spirits. When they saw him, the 3 people roared. Their bodies disintegrated, and turned into 3 monsters. A monster with a pumpkin head, a witch hat, and a lantern in hand. A green-skinned woman wearing a red dress and long dark green hair. A monster with a garlic head and a body like a cooked roast duck. Can it still transform? Like in P5? Qin Ren was slightly stunned when he saw these 3 things he didn't recognize, but the next moment, these monsters attacked him, forcing him to start defending. Flashing lightning, cold frost, scorching flames. With a thought, the yellow sand that condensed into armor in his lower body surged out and condensed into an irregular shield in front of him. At the same time, the magic power surged, and a transparent, sand-yellow light shield formed around him. Subconsciously, he used the double defense combination of barrier plus quicksand shield, but the 3 attacks did not penetrate the first layer of defense and were all blocked. A bit weak. Since you attacked, you can't blame me. Return from the underworld, my soldiers. Sand soldiers appeared. Qin Ren's mind changed, and when he shouted the second-year lines calmly, 3 yellow sand soldiers condensed in front of the 3 monsters with the wind and sand. Crazy sand attack. The moment they appeared, the 3 yellow sand soldiers rushed out, straightened the yellow sand spears in their hands, and stabbed at the 3 monsters at the same time. The 3 monsters obviously also had their own selves. When they realized they were being attacked, they dodged. The seemingly light-looking pumpkin head and garlic roast duck monsters did not dodge the attack. On the contrary, the larger female monster wearing a red dress dodged the attack, thanks to the book Friends for the reward of 100 Kidian coins, and for the reward of 100 Kidian coins. Chapter 114, The Qin Ren Arm. After 30 years of hard training, however, at this moment, a giant arm of sand that was 3 times her size suddenly smashed out and slapped her to the ground. With a crisp sound like glass breaking, the body of the female monster suddenly shattered and disappeared in the air. Strange arm of sand. The source of this giant hand was Qin Ren's right hand. Looking at his right hand, Qin Ren thought for a moment, then waved it again, smashing the other 2 monsters into pieces. Let me show you my Qin arm that I have practiced for 30 years. At this moment, Qin Ren noticed something and turned his head to look to the other side. A black cloud was approaching. A black motorcycle without headlights, like a shadow, roared and sped on the road. Whether it was the engine, the body, or the license plate, everything that could be seen directly from the outside was dyed black, as if the motorcycle was painted black. And the person driving the motorcycle was not a non-mainstream motorcycle gang, but a woman. The black tie leather jacket covered her sexy body. However, the cat-ear helmet of this female driver did not look very suitable. The smooth light reflected by her and the motorcycle in the street lamps passed through the street. The delivery location should be here. Kelty, a woman Qin Ren had met before, who was generally called Black Motorcycle, was driving a black motorcycle into the alley. At this time, there were 3 men standing in the alley, standing at the place where the delivery should be. However, their expressions were a little strange. After stopping the car, Kelty took out her mobile phone, and with the sound of da, she typed a string of words on the PDA that was similar to a mobile phone at a very fast speed. Are you the recipients? However, the other party did not have any intention of getting closer to see the words on the PDA in her hand, but stood there blankly. Kelty was slightly puzzled, got off the car, and walked closer to them. 2 of the 3 people looked to be in their 30s, and 1 looked to be in her early 20s. She had seen many such people when she was doing her job as a porter. She was a porter. From illegal items to dangerous items, she could deliver anything quickly. Whether it was a decent and ordinary job like delivering a forgotten lunchbox to her husband at the company, or an illegal job like sending a dead body to be disposed of somewhere unknown. Although she could not advertise it because it was an unlicensed business, she still had a lot of commissions. Because of this kind of work, she had met all kinds of different people. Whether it was a slightly perverted disciple of a famous painter, a blonde bartender with violent tendencies, a female doctor who was not as skilled as Scylla but had all kinds of strange medicines. She had seen more men like this. She would not delve into the matters of the client or the consignee. She was just a porter, and this characteristic allowed her to receive a lot of commissions. You guys. 3 big bold exclamation marks appeared on the PDA, but the other party still did not respond. What are they doing? Did they suddenly die standing? Should we call an ambulance? Kelty thought in confusion. She even wanted to use her own power to control the black mist to condense into the sickle she often used, to scare the people in front of her and make them react. Of course, she would not kill people. Her creed was not to accept commissions to kill people. There was no other reason. Although there would be some bad psychological reactions due to killing people, they were very small. The main reason was that she could live even if she didn't kill people. She just wanted to earn rent and pay rent to her roommate Scylla, even if the other party didn't want to collect money at all. And just when she was thinking about how to make these 3 people react, she was suddenly stunned, because, from the body of the man in the middle of the 3 people, a monster drilled out! Exclamation mark. Just like the color of pure gold in the previous commission, like some kind of bird, eagle, or falcon. A creature with such a head drilled out from the body of the man in the middle. When he saw her, the other party was obviously stunned. Alien? Kelty said a few words in horror. Without any hesitation, she immediately turned around and rode on the black motorcycle. With a rapid draw, she left the alley. What's going on? Qin Ren was confused. The one just now was Kelty, Sister Sai, right? Why did the other party seem to be very scared when she saw him? Suddenly turned around and ran. At this time, he seemed to remember something. Kelty is the most normal and most abnormal character in Durura. As a headless knight, she is a real monster without her neck and head connected, but she is more normal than ordinary women and other characters in Durura. And Sister Sai seems to be afraid of monsters and aliens? Thinking about his current state, being treated as a monster by the headless knight is really a special experience. Qin Ren got out of the man's body completely and released the virtualization through the Millennium Key. The Millennium Key can materialize things like spirits, and can also virtualize matter. He just made his body illusory, and then opened the spiritual world of this person and entered it. He truly confirmed the existence of the impression space, and the images of these 3 people in the impression space were 3 monsters he didn't know. Because they were monsters, he just killed them. Then, G-level bag X3, you got 1 yellow sand gold coin, you got 1 yellow sand gold coin, you got 1 yellow sand gold coin. It can only be said that those 3 monsters are relatively low level, right? There should be high-level monsters, right? However, speaking of it, he killed those 3 monsters. Qin Ren, who had regained his entity, looked at the 3 people in front of him. They no longer had any movements, as if they had become dull puppets. Speaking of which, according to the settings in P5, those monster personas are actually equivalent to the collection of various levels of consciousness of human mind and desire. After killing the other party, they will become disabled, that is, they will lose their desires. What will happen if they lose their desires? Not only the cliched 7 sins such as greed and lust, but the desire for survival should also be considered as desires. If your persona is killed, you will become a disabled person. Am I indirectly killing someone? No, that's not right. In P5, the protagonist team killed monsters everywhere. If this counts, then wouldn't the useless people be spreading everywhere? Qin Ren thought carefully. Should persona be considered extra desire? And just as he was thinking, he suddenly felt a gust of wind ringing in his ears. Chapter 115. You guys vote. Subconsciously, he raised his right hand to block. However, the quicksand condensed into armor did not completely block it. He felt a trace of pain, because he was distracted and did not pay attention to defense. The tip of the knife pierced his skin, but Qin Ren reacted in time and controlled the quicksand on the armor to press against the blade. In an instant, the tip of the knife could no longer get deeper. Looking at the silver blade that was pinched by the quicksand and could no longer move, embedded in the quicksand armor like a yellow sand soldier, Qin Ren was slightly stunned. A consciousness like a voice entered his mind. Human, desire, love, desire to love humans, love 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 love. Human? Number, not human, monster, he muttered incoherently, and I didn't know whether it should be called a lunatic or a stutter. At this time, dry hot wind blew from the yellow sand space, flowing through his body, and drove away this incoherent consciousness. Qin Ren, who came back to his senses from the weird voice, subconsciously used his strength. Show up, my Imperial Guards. The wall of Imperial Guards. The magic power surged, and the quicksand on the ground rolled up. The concrete and asphalt on the walls and roads were peeled off, forming several yellow sand Imperial Guards wearing armor and holding huge shields. The moment they formed, the yellow sand Imperial Guards rushed out and knocked the attacker away. But it was not over yet. The strange arm of sand, the yellow sand Imperial Guards instantly exploded and condensed with other quicksand at a very fast speed. With Qin Ren's right arm as the base point, they attached to his hand, wrapped the entire arm, and formed a long and thick strange hand. Waving his arm, this thick giant hand that condensed half a ton of gravel slapped the attacker heavily. Crack, boom. Under the thunderous force of the two consecutive moves, the man was smashed and flew more than 80 meters in the air, and then rolled to the ground. Although I stopped for a few years, I have practiced the Qilin arm for more than 20 years. Qin Ren glanced at the strange arm of sand on his right hand and swung his arm gently. The strange arm of sand disappeared. This combo is not bad. After the Forbidden Army wall was knocked away, QTE was used to connect the strange arm of sand. Qin Ren, who was thinking about the moves, looked at the direction where Kelty had just left, then turned his head to look at the three people, and then urged his magic power to use the power of the Millennium Key. As his way disappeared again, Qin Ren's body turned into an illusion. In his hand, he held the Millennium Key, which was also in an illusory state, tightly and stretched it forward. A red and black door, like a vortex, appeared in front of the person in the center of the three. He wanted to go again. Thinking about it, he passed through the illusory door. What once again appeared in Qin Ren's vision was the world that was almost exactly the same as the real world in appearance. It was as if the color was changed, and the colors of all objects tended to be red and black, covered with a layer of red and black filter. Even the moon in the sky was painted red. Impression space, the spiritual world, an illusory world formed by people's cognition. Qin Ren shifted his perspective to his Millennium Key, which allowed him to enter this place. Qin Ren, who wrapped himself in quicksand to look like Azra, walked to the wall. Because he turned off the automatic opening of the pumice charge, no pumice floated up when he was by the wall. However, in the final analysis, the pumice charge is actually a useless ability. He can do it by controlling the quicksand. Thinking about it, he habitually raised his arm and squeezed it hard. When he posed, the quicksand condensed, and the sun disk and the desert dragon gathered together to form the corona dragon. In the yellow sand space, in addition to the residual soul of the mercenary who was killed, there were 3 more red and black light balls. These red and black light balls came from the personality masks of the 3 people who were killed by him just now. 4 light balls? Can Qin Ren suddenly have the idea of rubbing them into one? Following Qin Ren's will, the 3 red and black light balls merged with the mercenary's memory light ball. In an instant, the red and black light ball, which was a circle larger than the original palm-sized light ball, floated in the air. It really condensed into a ball. Qin Ren just thought so, and did not expect that it would really merge into a ball. The next moment, the red light ball rushed towards the corona dragon condensed in the yellow sand space. Just like a magic puppet filled with a core, the eyes of the corona dragon had a trace of divine light that only living things have. And Qin Ren, who was in the impression space, also had the same divine light on the corona dragon under his feet. Without Qin Ren giving any instructions, the corona dragon moved its limbs. Then, as if it noticed Qin Ren, it turned its gaze to Qin Ren. "Hey, who are you? You kid, what are you doing standing on my back? Oh my god, do you have an accent? Shut up, slave." With his magical power surging, Qin Ren's will was transmitted to the sand that shaped the body of the corona dragon, and he controlled it forcibly. In the yellow sand space, the red ball of light was also stripped from the body of the corona dragon. The next moment, the stripped red ball of light twisted and deformed in the air, turning into the posture of the Corona Dragon. Seeing this scene, Qin Ren was stunned. Can it be like this? The Corona Dragon flapped its wings in the yellow sand space and looked around. Where is this place? The monster in the posture of the Corona Dragon shouted loudly. The next moment, Qin Ren's figure appeared in front of it. Seeing something coming out in front of it, the Corona Dragon subconsciously swung its claws and attacked Qin Ren. However, in the yellow sand space, Qin Ren can exert greater power than the outside world. Moreover, in the yellow sand space, its every move is clearly recognized by Qin Ren. In this world, nothing can be hidden from him. The yellow sand on the boundless desert was flowing, and before the monster in the form of a Corona Dragon attacked Qin Ren, it had already blocked Qin Ren's way, and the sand blocking him showed no signs of being damaged at all. Following the trend, under Qin Ren's control, the flowing yellow sand wrapped the Corona Dragon and bound it with a powerful force. At this time, Qin Ren, who subconsciously made this operation, had a skill name in his mind: Sand Binding Coffin. Gar's skill, to put it bluntly, it is to wrap things with sand and then crush them with force. At this time, the Corona Dragon suddenly said, wait a minute, P.S. Since everyone said that P5 has not been heard of or seen, then I will end this copy early. About 50-70 chapters. Want the public copy? You vote. FZ, Case Files of the Second Generation, FSN, K, Shanna, DC, Marvel, One Punch Man, Hero Academia, Part-Time Job, Land of the Lustrous, Artificial Girl Doesn't 20, Bone King, Slime, Dead Flame C, and others. Specify. I will come back to see how many in-chapter reviews and votes there are here, and then make a decision. Thanks to bookfriend 20170304204102432 inches for the 500 starting coins, and I don't know how to do it for the 100 starting coins. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, Happy Fatherhood. Wait a minute, what's wrong? Qin Ren looked at it with a disdainful look. Any last words? This thing was made by fusing the fragments of the 3 personality mask monsters he killed with the soul of the mercenary. To put it bluntly, it is also a personality mask, or is it a soul? Qin Ren didn't know what the hell he had made. He just needed the soul and the mask fragments into a ball and stuffed it into the Corona Dragon, and his Corona Dragon posture was obviously formed because he stuffed this thing into the Corona Dragon. Like a mold? Not a last word, completely inconsistent with its wild and domineering appearance. The Corona Dragon begged for mercy. Let me do anything. Don't kill me. Get rid of your accent first. You speak with a strong accent. Are you a native dragon from somewhere? Can you do everything? Qin Ren glanced at it. Yes, I can use pistols, rifles, carbines, submachine guns, light and heavy machine guns, and shotguns. The Corona Dragon was stunned as he spoke, and looked down at himself. Qin Ren was also stunned. Flying dragon? Shooting? How can these 2 words be connected together? Wait a minute. The soul of the mercenary, the 3 personality masks. Qin Ren remembered this. In other words, the memory of this Corona Dragon is formed by the combination of 4. At this time, the Corona Dragon raised his head again and looked at Qin Ren. By the way, is this hell? Am I dead? Hell? Qin Ren was about to answer no, but he stopped when the words came to his mouth. According to what he felt before, the yellow sand space needs a lot of souls. And souls must be collected in the future, and there will definitely be many such cases in the future, so, how should we explain it at that time? Say this is a consciousness space, a new world? It seems that there is no problem with using hell as an explanation. No, it sounds better to use the underworld. Thinking of this, Qin Ren nodded. Yes, this is the underworld. After hearing this, the Corona Dragon, which originally had a strong desire to survive, seemed to have suddenly lost the desire to move, and its long neck tilted back. Ah, I'm dead. Seeing its appearance, Qin Ren couldn't help but smile. But the eagle's face didn't show any expression. "If I want, you can still see the outside world." "What, I can be resurrected?" The Corona dragon raised its head again, and looked at Qin Ren with a pair of dragon eyes wide open. "Are you?" "I am Izir Qin, the god of the underworld." Qin Ren casually made up himself as the Egyptian god of the underworld Osiris, and replaced Osiris with the name he gave to the protagonist of the game. "Oh, the Corona dragon exclaimed. Qin Ren thought for a while, and it seemed difficult to call him without a name, so he came up with a profound name. "By the way, since you're red, let's call you Purgatory Dragon, or Purgatory or Leon for short." "Aha, wait a minute. Lord Hades, this name." "What's wrong?" "Purgatory, this name." "Then what name do you want? Something more straightforward?" "Ziong, it's okay. Lord Hades' name is really great." After giving the guy who appeared in the form of a Corona dragon the name of the fire dragon in LOL, that is, the Purgatory dragon, and placing it in the corresponding Corona dragon shell, Qin Ren's consciousness returned to the impression space. What will happen to the yellow sand space in the future? Qin Ren didn't know. However, he estimated that there should be many more residents. The guys he killed will enter the yellow sand space. It has become a simulation business game. Qin Ren couldn't help thinking, if the yellow sand space becomes a world in the future, then he will be the creator god? The creator? It's quite exciting to think about it. Turning his sight to his feet, Qin Ren said, "Purgatory, can you see the surrounding scenery?" He can observe the surrounding vision through the sun disk inside the Corona dragon. And now, can Purgatory, who is possessed by the Corona dragon, gain vision? If so, it will help him. In reality, the expanded vision made him see many disgusting pictures. To be honest, he already has a psychological shadow. "Ah, Lord Hades, I can see it." The Corona dragon's mouth made a sound. "I can see far away." "Wow, there are so many here. When I was alive, I didn't see so many masks." "Wait, I'm still alive. You have memories, right?" Qin Ren couldn't help asking. "Of course I remember. I am the Corona dragon." Raised its neck and showed a puzzled expression. "Who am I?" Purgatory was a little confused. It had several identities in its mind. "Mercenary? No, it's the shadow mask." "It doesn't know who I am?" The confused memory made it have no idea who it was. Its appearance made Qin Ren ponder, and then he said, "You are nothing. You are a creation that I pieced together with several souls. The memories you know now are just memories used as materials for patchwork. Your name is Purgatory. You are just Purgatory, not anyone else." There is nothing wrong with this sentence. It is indeed a patchwork that Qin Ren fused with fragments of 3 personality masks and a human soul. Hearing Qin Ren's words, Purgatory was stunned, and the chaotic memory in his mind was explained. Then, it thought about it. "In other words, Lord Hades, you are my father?" I just have an extra child out of thin air? Wait a minute. However, what it said does not seem to be wrong. According to Chinese mythology, Nuwa created humans, and humans are Nuwa's children. So, he is indeed the father of this dragon. Don't lose your composure. Don't lose your composure. That's right. Qin Ren's face under the mask twitched. This god really likes being a father. To be more precise, I created you. You are my creation. Isn't that still a father? The fire dragon Purgatory turned his head and looked at him in surprise. Speechless. Choked by its words, Qin Ren didn't know what to say, so he could only remain silent, and then turned his eyes to the location of a shadow mask. "Purgatory, the target is that. Kill it." "Why do you want to kill it? Do you want to pinch out a few more dragons?" The fire dragon blinked, and the dragon's face was full of confusion. "Do it if I tell you to, or I will disintegrate you." Qin Ren, who was overwhelmed by the question, clenched his fists and said aloud while trying to resist the urge to beat it up. Hearing this, Purgatory stopped teasing Qin Ren's emotions, opened his mouth, and the sun disk gathered magic power, spewing out a ball of sand yellow energy, hitting the monster that looked like a snowman. P.S. The votes for the previous chapter are valid until the end of P5xy2, and I will outline the ones with the highest votes. And, at the beginning of the next volume, I will vote again. After all, there are various new episodes, and I will also go back to watch the original works and select some new episodes that I have completed to add to the options. As for this volume, alas, I originally wanted to blend the plots of Watto and P5, such as the strategy of the Hall of Demons of Isaiah, but now it seems that in order to quickly progress and compress the plot, it can no longer be expanded. Many characters can't appear. What a pity. Chapter 117. It is said that the system flow actually originated from games. The next day. So, I hate going to class. Sitting in the classroom of the second grade of high school, Qin Ren sat in his seat with a bored look on his face. Going to school is really annoying. There is nothing to do. Closing his eyes, he opened the system and looked at the gold coin bar that had risen because he killed a bunch of shadow masks last night. Bounty: 4,781 yellow sand gold coins, dozens of G-level yellow sandbags and more than 20 F-level yellow sandbags allowed him to obtain a total of 210 yellow sand gold coins and 8 G-level certificates. As long as he gets 2 more G-level certificates, he can upgrade his attributes or skills. He'd better find some time to brush some more. Before upgrading, he doesn't plan to spend gold coins anymore. While thinking about this, the bell rang and a voice came from the podium. Okay, get out of class is over. It seemed that the history teacher had left the classroom. What did he say? Qin Ren didn't want to listen at all. In his mind, there were only all kinds of negative things related to the Japanese history class. Taking a step, Qin Ren also walked out of the classroom. Sakamoto, if you keep going like this, you're talking too much. Perhaps the sound of the conversation reached his ears. Qin Ren turned his head and saw 3 people standing at the door of the classroom talking. A sturdy man in a white shirt, with a strange hairstyle, which looked like an inverted triangle with his head. A young female teacher who looked to be in her 20s, wearing a yellow and black striped cotton long-sleeved t-shirt and a denim hip skirt, was his class teacher, Kawakami Sadashiro. The other one was a student with short blonde hair. I said, when I came to school, I entered a weird castle, and there were some weirdos in armor inside, and they were chasing me. The yellow-haired young man answered irritably, as if he was angry because the two did not believe him. There is no castle nearby. Even if you make up a reason, you should make a more normal one. Kawakami Citadel shook her head. How could anyone believe such an unrealistic reason? As she said that, she turned her head and looked at the man next to her. Mr. Kamoshida, leave him to me. Then leave it to you, Mr. Kawakami. The male teacher named Kamoshida smiled kindly, turned around, and prepared to leave. When he saw Qin Ren standing at the door of the classroom, he just glanced at him and left without saying anything. The head teacher, Kawakami Citadel, also saw him. After sighing, he looked at Sakamoto Ryuji. Do you understand? If you continue like this, I know. Sakamoto Ryuji, who looked irritated, didn't listen to what he said. He turned around and left, leaving Mr. Kawakami, who looked extremely helpless. He wasn't like this before. Why, Sakamoto Ryuji? Qin Ren looked at him twice, then turned his eyes to Kawakami Citadel. This teacher is also a good person, and his experience is also quite sympathetic. This teacher had helped a student who was under great pressure in life and had poor grades. However, due to various rumors in the school at that time, she had to give up taking care of the student. Although she gave up taking care of him, it did not mean that she would return to the state of being a passerby before helping him. Sometimes she would still take care of him. However, due to the excessive pressure of life and the gradual alienation of teacher Kawakami, the student, whose condition had improved somewhat, was hit and became dazed all day long. During that time, the student accidentally encountered a car accident and died, and the teacher felt guilty about it. However, the student's relatives used this as an excuse to blame her and asked her to compensate for their losses, and then turned it into blackmail. To put it bluntly, the relatives who had nothing to do with the student at ordinary times used his death to extort money after the student died. Kawakami did not resist or refute because of his passive personality and guilt, so he worked hard to do various temporary jobs such as maid cafes and hourly maids to earn money in addition to his job. As a result, he not only had difficulty resting, but also failed to take care of his schoolwork. He was so busy that he was exhausted and even hospitalized because of it. In the game, as the protagonist, You can choose to help her and conquer her. Yes, it is the so-called teacher-student love. By the way, when Qin Ren was playing, among all the characters he conquered, all the older characters were specially conquered, including this female teacher. In fact, after seeing the person, Qin Ren was quite emotional. After thinking for a while, he walked to her side. "Teacher, what happened?" In response to Qin Ren's question, Kawakami Sadao couldn't help but sighed and didn't say much. "Nothing. Compared to this, do you know the way around? The way to school is a bit complicated, but I still know it." Qin Ren shrugged his shoulders and smiled in his heart. "Compared to this, I will designate you next time." This female teacher usually has a part-time designated maid, which is actually an hourly worker, but an hourly worker who wears a maid outfit, but comes to help with cleaning, washing clothes, cooking and other things. To designate a person means that you can designate a certain person, and in the game, the protagonist knew that teacher Kawakami had this job because of this, which led to the subsequent intersection and the things of helping her and conquering her. Qin Ren noticed the astonished expression on the teacher's face, and said nothing. He walked away and went directly to the top floor. But when he got to the top floor, he found that two young men with dyed yellow hair were confronting each other on the balcony. Qin Ren was slightly stunned. These two people, one is Sakamoto Riji, and the other is Kida Masami. The former is the first comrade in arms, best friend, and accomplice of the protagonist in P5, and the latter is the former leader of the Yellow Turban Bandits in the Headless Night. Hey, this is where the three of us childhood sweethearts who are very close to each other eat lunch at noon, the slick and frivolous Kida Masami said in an exaggerated and frivolous voice. "So, let this place be left to us. Are you also a suitor of Anri? Although Anri is sexy and cute, it's not okay to do this. She already has two suitors, me and Jin, so you should give up." His coquettish words made the glasses girl next to him, Anri Sanahara, blush a little embarrassed, and Ryugaman Jin also hurriedly tried to stop his childhood sweetheart from saying, "Masami, what are you doing? You are going to bother Anri." The somewhat immature boy was actually bothered by the fact that Kida Masami said he was Anri's suitor. TSK, looking at the three people, Sakamoto Riji hammered the table and left. As he walked, he took out his cell phone and muttered, "Damn it, this was clearly my territory before. Why would other students come to the rooftop where the garbage is piled? How did this software appear again? It's really inexplicable." Qin Ren also heard this when he walked past him. Software, Chapter 118. Just be a supporting role. Software. Qin Ren was a little confused, and then he remembered something. That is, the group of fandom thieves in P5 did not have the ability to enter the impression space directly, but had to use a software in the mobile phone. A software called Different World Navigation. Just like the voice navigation software on the market, by saying a person plus keywords related to this person, this software can bring people into the other world and into the impression space. Watching Sakamoto Riji leave, Qin Ren couldn't help but take out his mobile phone. According to the situation, he possessed the protagonist of the game, Kurisu Akatsuki, so as the protagonist, he should also have the software for the Different World Navigation. But he didn't. The software on the mobile phone was normal. As for the reason, he could understand that when he had the idea of wanting the Velvet Room before, the yellow sand space attacked the Velvet Room according to his wishes, and the performance at that time seemed to be to stuff the Velvet Room directly into his stomach, and the creator of the Different World Navigation is undoubtedly Igor, the false god Igor or the twins. Igor has been imprisoned by the false god Igor, so it is more likely to be the false god Igor. In other words, the other party excluded him because of his previous unexpected action. Not to mention excluding him, it is not impossible to directly regard him as an enemy. However, Qin Ren does not need the thing. He can enter the impression space through the Millennium Key. However, speaking of it, the school is where the first incident happened. The villain of the incident is Kamoshida. The full name is Kamoshida Taku. It is the male teacher who was with Kawakami Sadao just now. He is the physical education teacher of Shujin Academy and the coach of the volleyball team. Although he looks good and like a human being, he actually treats students with arrogance and domineering attitude and violent behavior, and often sexually harasses female students. He used to be an Olympic champion and is now a physical education teacher, coaching the volleyball team. Speaking of it, it is actually quite impressive that this school can invite an Olympic champion to be a teacher, but this teacher is not a good person. The corporal punishment for students is very harsh, even to the point of abuse, but because the school relies on him to win various honors, it will also protect him. In addition, Kamoshida himself abuses his teacher's power to suppress, and usually shows that he cares about students very much, so those abused students cannot get rid of his control. The phantom thieves formed by the protagonist in P5 broke into the distortion point reflected by Kamoshida's mind in the impression space, the magic palace in the shape of a castle, took away the treasure, and caused the magic palace to collapse. As mentioned before, the magic palace represents a large-scale distorted desire, and there is a treasure in the magic palace, which is actually the core of the magic palace, the core of distorted desire. When this core is taken away, the magic palace also collapses, and Kamoshida also loses his distorted desire. In addition to the core, there is also a shadow Kamoshida that is equivalent to Kamoshida's mind and self. If the shadow Kamoshida is killed, Kamoshida will collapse mentally and become a useless person without self. In a sense, the soul is erased and only a physical body is left. The protagonists are normal people in a society ruled by law, and they are students. Even if they are treated badly, they are not so bad that they want to kill people to vent their anger. Therefore, they just take away the treasures in Kamoshida's demon palace, causing Kamoshida to lose his twisted desires, and let the shadow Kamoshida return to his original body, and then turn himself in. Speaking of this, Qin Ren remembered one thing, that is, the other self representing the soul. The thief Gil is honest, he can't lie at all. While he was distracted thinking, the trio of Ryuguminjin, Kidamasami and Sanaharan Anri suddenly looked over. Qin Ren was a little confused, but then he realized through their sight that the other party was not looking at him, but turning his head. More than 10 meters behind him, in the stairwell, stood a man in a white shirt. Judging from his appearance and age, he is not a student. Is he a teacher? Hey, you guys. No one is allowed to come up to the top floor. Do you hear me? Ah, it's Nasashima. Teacher Nasashima. Teacher. Kidamasami's tone was frivolous and contemptuous. Ryuguminjin had the reaction of an ordinary student who saw a strange teacher after doing something wrong, and Anri was bland and a little lacking in emotion. The completely different reactions of the three made Qin Ren think for a moment. Is this person an important character? He should not be the protagonist, nor an important supporting role. He is probably just a marginal or even a minor role. Next to Nasashima, who was blocking the door to the stairwell, Sakamoto Rigi stood there, looking impatient because his way was blocked. Sakamoto, what's your attitude? Is that the right reaction to see a teacher? Sakamoto Rigi was in a very bad mood, and his face was already showing an irritation that was close to anger. Teacher Nasashima, and the way he clenched his fists made the seemingly not strong teacher Nasashima scared, and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. Anyway, you guys leave here quickly. After saying that, he walked down the stairs in a flash. Qin Ren, who became more sensitive because of his improved attributes, also heard him mumbling and cursing Sakamoto Rigi. At this time, Kidamasami came over with a strange smile and walked to the side of Sakamoto Rigi. You have to be careful. Nasashima is in the same group with Kamoshida, and he also caused a female student named Shikagawa Haruna to drop out of school. Be careful of his revenge. Kidamasami's strange smile did not make Sakamoto Rigi have any expression. After all, as a sports specialty student, Kamoshida had broken his leg and forced him to quit the track and field club. In his opinion, this kind of person is less bad than Kamoshida. As for being in the same group with Kamoshida, he and Kamoshida were originally in opposition and didn't care at all. None of your business. Sakamoto Rigi turned around and left, but after walking a few steps, he still stopped and said, for the time being, thank you. After saying that, he walked down the stairs. P.S. The foreshadowing of the trio's characters? There was a lot of foreshadowing in the front. More than one foreshadowing. Tjin is the moderator of the Taiba Forum. Kida is the former leader of the Young and Dangerous gang. Anri is the owner of the Mother Demon Sword that slashed the attacker Qin Ren before. The three are classmates. and Jin and Kita Masami are childhood friends. The backgrounds of the three have been described in detail. The first appearance was the introduction perspective of a passerby talking. The second was the detailed perspective of the background introduction of the character. And the third was the detailed perspective of the face-to-face detailed personality. Now these two chapters are preparing for the third detailed description of the characters. As for the chaos, the perception of having seen and not seen is different. And I also made a random entry. Since you think it is chaotic, it means that the previous two writings were not good and you have no impression. Then I will simply not write new characters to avoid chaos. You have been saying that you haven't seen P5 and there is no beginning, and you don't want to watch it, so I plan to advance the plot quickly, so there will be no important plots. The originally prepared plots have been deleted, and there will only be the plot of P5. To compress it to about 50 chapters, half of the plot must be deleted. I have deleted several chapters and saved them, and the outline of this volume has also been deleted and rewritten. The conversation between these three headless people is no different from that between strangers, just treated as strangers A, B, and C talking about their daily life. This chapter mainly wanted to write about meeting Riji Sakamoto and the trio, and then they entered the impression space together. But now the plot of the trio is gone. It's just strangers talking. I'm confused after deleting, and revising. It's easier to write original articles. Fanfiction requires looking up this information and that information, and the relationship between the characters is too complicated, which is not friendly to people who haven't read it. Forget it. When any character appears in the future, I will simply, roughly and brainlessly introduce them from beginning to end, and it's logical to understand the character in detail. The effect of writing in layers and details is good in original articles, and understanding the character layer by layer, but in fanfiction, it is completely troublesome and thankless. The experience of writing original articles is useless in fanfiction. Now I get you want to understand a character simply and quickly at one time, right? Chapter 119 The final 3 questions. Time went by and it was afternoon. Qin Ren, who had been in school for a day and wanted to see if anyone could enter the Kamoshida Demon Palace, did not find what he wanted, and Sakamoto Riji had no intention of using the software. He swept through the impression space yesterday, but there were no powerful monsters. According to the setting of P5, the corresponding location of the impression space is based on the entrance of the subway station and goes down. The monsters are stronger the further down you go. The design is similar to the traditional Dungeons & Dragons style maze monster system. Although Qin Ren has played P5, it was a long time ago after all. It is okay for him to remember the characters, but he can't remember the locations at all. So, he chose the school. According to the plot, as the first event of the game, the monsters in the castle of the Kamoshida Demon Palace are easier to find, and they are also stronger. I don't know what level of yellow sandbags can drop. However, after staying in school for a day, I didn't encounter them. How about going directly to Kamoshida? Use the Millennium Key? Thinking about this, he walked out of the classroom amid the discussions of the few students who did not leave for the last duty. When he found Kamoshida's office, he found that Kamoshida was not in the school. He condensed a sun disk under the ground to expand his vision. He found that the other party was at the school gate. Kamoshida, who was sitting in the driver's seat, was talking to Sakamoto Riji. After a moment of confusion, Qin Ren came to the school gate. When he arrived, Kamoshida had already driven away, leaving only Sakamoto Riji standing at the gate, cursing something. Damn it, Kamoshida. That guy, does he think the school is his castle? Sakamoto Riji, who was holding his mobile phone tightly, gritted his teeth and said this, and his figure suddenly disappeared from reality. Qin Ren, who was observing the school gate through the sun disk, also discovered this situation. Standing at the school gate, Qin Ren touched his chin. Then, he turned around and looked at the school, holding his right palm in the air, as if holding something. It seems that it doesn't say that it must be used on people. If Kamoshida's magic palace castle corresponds to the school in reality, then, using his magic power, Qin Ren held the illusory thousand-year key and inserted it forward. With a wave of fluctuations that seemed to return to the yellow sand space, The world in front of Qin Ren suddenly changed into the impression space of red and black. What was in front of him was not the school that was much smaller than the Chinese high school, but a medieval castle. A few dozen meters away from him, Riji Sakamoto was standing there. Because of his position, he was on this side of the castle fence, while Riji Sakamoto was on the bridge of the moat. The other party obviously noticed him as well. "You are the transfer student with a criminal record?" Riji Sakamoto, whose eyes widened because he came to this weird place again, couldn't help but screamed when he found Qin Ren. "How can you talk like that?" Qin Ren shook his head helplessly. Riji Sakamoto was the kind of adolescent boy with a particularly straightforward and impulsive personality. Basically, he was the kind of person who would pick up a stick and ask who hit you without saying a word after his friend was beaten. He was still quite loyal, but his personality was too straightforward and impulsive. "Oh, sorry." Sakamoto Riji apologized subconsciously, and then his reflex arc bounced back. "No, wait, do you know where this place is?" "Yes." Qin Ren put his hands in his pockets, feeling his slowly rising momentum, and said, "This is Kamoshida's castle." "Kamoshida? Why is it related to Kamoshida?" Sakamoto Riji waited for the pair of big eyes, and looked at the huge castle. "I haven't heard that Kamoshida is a tycoon, although he is an Olympic champion." As he said, he gritted his teeth when he remembered the hatred of having his leg broken and being bitten back and called a bad student with bad behavior. "This is the world of the mind, the world of cognition." Qin Ren glanced at him. "He thinks he is the king of the castle, and the school is his castle, so this is his castle. What kind of unreasonable bandit logic is this? Why does he think it is?" Sakamoto Riji punched the pillar next to him hard. "By the way, you can do a lot of things here." Qin Ren looked at him and an idea came to his mind. Why don't he also create a group of phantom thieves like in the game? What to do? Sakamoto Riji looked puzzled. For example, Qin Ren clenched his fist expressionlessly and materialized the ghost mask. In an instant, an eagle-faced mask appeared on his face. In P5, when the protagonist's personas awaken, a mask will appear on their faces, and the way to summon the personas is to Qin Ren grabbed the edge of the mask on his face and pulled it hard. Countless gravel condensed around him, and the next moment, a hideous corona dragon appeared beside him. Because of the sudden appearance of the flying dragon, Sakamoto Riji was startled and took 2 steps back. What kind of monster is this? Dragon? In the game? In the animation and comics? Why here? This is the world of cognition, the world of the mind. Qin Ren, who actually just cancelled the embodiment of the ghost mask, raised his glasses expressionlessly, and a light flashed on them. Tear off your mask and face your true self. What am I talking about? Qin Ren, who had no idea what he was talking about, felt the speed of his mana recovery increase after saying this. The momentum value increased again. Well, although I don't know what I'm talking about, it sounds pretty powerful. Whether it's for Qin Ren or Sakamoto Riji, this sentence is unclear but powerful. Tear off the mask and face your true self? Sakamoto Riji seemed to understand, and looked at his hands in confusion. Qin Ren looked at him, shook his head, and then turned and walked into the castle. The decoration of the castle is really ugly. After entering the wide-open gate of the castle, what came into view was the pink decoration, which revealed a sense of lewdness everywhere. Speaking of which, Kamoshida's castle seems to correspond to the lust in the 7 deadly sins. That's right, it is the 7 deadly sins setting that has been used to death in various works. At this time, several tall and strong knights in black armor came towards them. "You, who are you?" "There is an intruder," one just asked aloud, and the other shouted that there was an intruder. "You two should be more tacit." "But it doesn't matter, he came here to kill monsters." "Come on, Purgatory Dragon." In the yellow sand space, the fire dragon Purgatory, who was bored looking at the endless desert, thinking about the ultimate 3 questions of who am I, where do I come from, and where am I going, was suddenly stuffed into the body of the Corona dragon. Thanks to the book friend Corizes for the reward of 100 starting coins. Chapter 120. Don't stand in front of the Emperor. What? Fire Dragon Purgatory was a little confused when it possessed the Corona Dragon. "Lord Hades, what happened?" "Collect materials," Qin Ren said expressionlessly. "Kill as many as you can, I need a lot of materials. Oh, Fire Dragon Purgatory did not resist the order to fight and kill monsters. In the underworld, there was only the huge, sun-like disk besides the endless sand. No, there were nearly 100 red light balls. According to Lord Hades, those were the materials used to make him. So, he was the eldest son? Fire Dragon Purgatory inherited Qin Ren's habit of distraction. After thinking for a while, he opened his mouth, and the sun disk pattern in his body lit up instantly, and the neck lit up like the sun. A ball of sand yellow energy gushed out of its mouth and hit the masked knight. The powerful impact directly smashed it out. After flying more than 10 meters, it hit a pillar and rolled to the ground. The dark armor dented and was full of cracks. Qin Ren looked at this scene and couldn't help thinking in his heart. Now there is a big problem. That is, because of the increase in blood, magic power, mana, and mana recovery speed, he can control more sand and use more power through sand. However, when he uses skills, the damage he can cause is still only plus G at most. To put it in a more vivid way, the attribute is his body itself. The skill is the weapon in his hand. He has trained his body and his body has become stronger, but the strength of the weapon has not changed. G-level skills can only cause additional bonuses of G-level. His current magic power is 1.5F, plus the 35% G brought by the ghost mask. Using G-level skills, the damage that can be caused is a total of 1.635F and 16.35 G. According to 1G 150 kilograms, it can cause about 2.5 tons of damage. An ordinary car weighs 1.5 tons to 2 tons. Later, he must also upgrade his skills selectively. If you want to increase the damage of skills, you have to upgrade the skill level and increase the upper limit of the damage that the skill can accommodate. Now, the damage he causes to people by simply controlling the sand without using skills is higher than the damage caused by using skills. Take the skill of Sand Soldier Appearance for example. If Qin Ren condenses it directly with sand, it will be like that. However, Sand Soldier actually has a skill core constructed with mana, which can provide additional strength and damage to the condensed Sand Soldier. However, the amount of mana and magic strength that this skill core can withstand is limited. Just like blood vessels, the amount and strength that can be tolerated is so large. If it exceeds, it will explode. And raising the level of skills should be to tell him how to build a more powerful core and a skill core that can withstand a larger amount of mana. Although it has not been actually exchanged, this kind of thing can still be understood by thinking about it. While thinking about this, the three knights were knocked down by the energy spewed out by Purgatory, and their bodies turned into black and red fragments and dissipated in the air. Some of the black and red fragments flew towards Qin Ren. In the yellow sand space, 3 more small red light balls appeared. Lord Hades' Fire Dragon Purgatory turned around, with a puzzled look on the dragon's face. What's next? Are we going to kill them as we did yesterday? Kill them all? Well, I need materials. Qin Ren actually had no idea how much he needed, but he didn't care. Just kill them and it would be done. Yes. Fire Dragon Purgatory turned around, and a ferocious smile appeared on its dragon mouth. I'm coming. After saying that, it flapped its wings and rushed out. Ha 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 ha. Come on, fight me. After knowing that he was not a human, but a creation of Qin Ren's soul, Purgatory, who no longer cared about the content of his memory, completely let himself go, turned and flew directly into a corridor on the left side of the castle to fight with the shadow soldiers. Qin Ren thought it was just going to open its mouth and spray, but it didn't know that it was going to rush out, and before he knew it, the soles of his feet were separated from its back. Qin Ren hurriedly controlled the quicksand that had turned into armor and equipped on his body, and held his body in the air. At this moment, from the other side of the castle gate, a dozen shadows quickly rushed out of the darkness inside the gate and appeared at Qin Ren's feet. In front of the crowd, there was a man wrapped in a pink quilt and wearing only a pair of shorts. He looked like the show-off Kamoshida teacher, and wore a golden crown on his head. He looked up at Qin Ren, a flash of anger in his eyes, and said to Qin Ren with a gloomy face, "How dare you break into my castle?" With this image, "You are the Quilt King?" Listening to his words, Qin Ren glanced at his 33% momentum value. thought for a while, and then lowered his voice, imitating Izir's echoing DJ vibrato. "Stupid low-level creature." As he said, he controlled the quicksand and raised the wind and sand in the hall of the castle, full of momentum. Kamoshida, blinded by the wind and sand, raised his hand to block the wind and sand. "Damn it, where did you come from? You dare to speak rudely to me in my castle? Come on!" As he said that, he waved his other hand. The dozen soldiers around him exploded and turned into monsters of various shapes, some human and some not. "Damn, the fight has started. I don't know where my stupid son ran away." Seeing them transformed into various monsters, Qin Ren also raised his hand, and the sand yellow energy rotated at a high speed in his palm, forming a small vortex. "Sandstorm, don't stand in front of the emperor." Izir blurted out the lines he had memorized. After saying that, he swung his right hand, and the energy vortex in his hand flew out of his hand. The energy flow expanded rapidly, sucking the surrounding air and sand into it, forming a huge sand roll, and crushed the monster formed by the dozen soldiers. "Ah, Lord Kamoshida." The monsters transformed from shadow soldiers were sucked into the sand roll. After being lifted into the air by the high-speed rotating sand roll, they were hit in the high-speed rotating sand and lost their balance, and were thrown out by the sand roll. One of them flew towards Qin Ren's face. Raising his hand, Qin Ren condensed the strange sand arm without hesitation. Quicksand condensed, and a huge sand arm that was 2 or 3 times larger than his body condensed out, grabbed the flying monster, and then squeezed it hard. Bang! The horrible pressure directly crushed the monster's body, turning it into countless black and red fragments. Thanks to the book friend Akita Colonel for the reward of 2,000 starting coins. Chapter 121 Captain, you stole my head. Shadow Musician did not see this scene. Because of the sandstorm, he retreated while blocking the wind and sand, and was not involved in the sandstorm. Nor did he see the fierce attack of Qin Ren. In an open area, the duration of atmospheric vortex phenomena such as tornadoes is generally only a few minutes, and at most a few dozen minutes. And the sandstorm, because of the narrow terrain of the castle, after spinning for nearly 20 seconds, it exhausted all the energy provided by Qin Ren, could not maintain the vortex, and dissipated in the air. Feeling the great increase in momentum, Qin Ren also controlled the quicksand and let himself slowly descend to the ground. Although those shadow monsters were knocked unconscious, because the scale of the sandstorm was not large and was limited, and because of the large loss of terrain, only half of them were killed and disappeared, and the others did not die directly after being thrown out. This skill is suitable for use in open areas, and it is best to use it when facing a large number of enemies, not a dozen or 20, but at least dozens or hundreds. After silently summing up his experience, Qin Ren, who fell to the ground, raised his right hand slightly, clenched his palm into a claw, and said, "Soldiers, return from the underworld, fight for me." As the voice fell, several soldiers stood up from the sand beside the fallen monster, and the wind and sand scattered all over the ground as the sandstorm dissipated, and then raised the yellow sand spear in their hands without hesitation, piercing the vital parts of the fallen monster. As the black and red fragments flew, Qin Ren's inventory had a few more yellow sand bags, and in the yellow sand space, there were a few more black and red small light balls. At this time, Kamoshida, after watching Qin Ren kill his soldiers neatly, raised his hand. "Come on, kill him for me." In this comparison, it was obvious whose lines were more handsome. Qin Ren couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Although he was also more second year, Qin Ren did not take this opportunity to attack, because it was difficult to find monsters outside. He had searched for a long time last night and only found dozens of them. Now, a large group of them appeared here. Moreover, the combat power of Shadow Musician in human form and in the form of a monster boss is different. This weak chicken may only be able to get 1 yellow sand gold coin, while in the boss state, he may be able to get more. Under Musician's loud call, dozens of shadow soldiers rushed out of the other doors of the hall, and there was only one place where no shadow soldiers rushed out. Moreover, the number of yellow sandbags in his inventory increased one by one. When the time comes, if he can pinch out a few more suns like Fire Dragon Purgatory, He can be a summoner and let them go to kill monsters while he hangs up and rests. How cool. However, do you want to compare the number of people? He really can't compare. He could only summon a dozen or so yellow sand soldiers at most, but if they were integrated into desert dragons, he clenched his right hand into a fist in front of his chest. Soldiers, turn into beasts and tear them apart. As he spoke, the yellow sand soldiers that had condensed all half knelt on the ground, waiting for orders. Then, the yellow sand that made up their bodies surged and condensed together. Strong bodies, thick necks and tails, sharp fangs and spikes, ferocious dragon heads and dragon wings raised at the same time. In an instant, 3 desert dragons appeared in front of Qin Ren. And Purgatory, come here. After dispersing the body of the fire dragon Purgatory that had already rushed into the castle, Qin Ren controlled the quicksand to condense again, forming a corona dragon, and attached the will of the fire dragon Purgatory to it. Lord Hades, the fire dragon Purgatory, who was a little confused because of the sudden change in the scene before his eyes, found the shadow soldiers around him and the other 3 desert dragons after a puzzled sound. Because the G-level Shurima heritage can only condense 1 sun disk, the other 3 desert dragons can actually only engage in hand-to-hand combat, and only the fire dragon Purgatory can spit out dragon breath to attack. I see. Are we going to fight? After figuring out the situation, the seemingly violent fire dragon Purgatory opened his mouth, and the energy condensed by the sun disk in his body gathered in his mouth, and then spit it out, hitting a shadow soldier and smashing his upper body. The 3 desert dragons and the Purgatory possessed by the Corona dragon made his mana recovery speed rise again with the momentum value. The appearance of these 3 monsters also made Shadow Kamchida's face black, and he couldn't help but jump and shout, "Quick, kill these guys!" As soon as the voice fell, dozens of soldiers exploded at the same time, and the black and red power reorganized into monsters of various forms in the air. And Qin Ren didn't wait, and distractedly controlled the 3 desert dragons to rush towards a row of soldiers who were transforming at the same time, scratching, biting, scratching and smashing this row of monsters. Only a fool would wait until you transform before attacking. While he despised the transformation operation in his heart, he controlled the 3 desert dragons to bite the heads of the 3 monsters respectively. With the figure similar to a watermelon bursting, the bodies of the 3 monsters turned into black and red fragments and dissipated. However, although he killed 7 or 8 monsters with his face rolling on the keyboard, and killed 3 or 4 and restrained 4 or 5 in the fire dragon Purgatory, there were still more than 20 soldiers. While more than a dozen of them threw frost and fire lightning to attack the desert dragons, the others were not stupid either and launched an attack on Qin Ren. Qin Ren was not panicked at all, because he was stronger than the 3 desert dragons. And, Phase Rush, G, Rune Skill, when hitting an enemy hero with 3 independent attacks or skills, it will provide additional explosive movement speed. Qin Ren dodged 2 flames leisurely, and then, Sand Strange Arm, the bodies of the 3 desert flying dragons suddenly disintegrated and condensed into a huge sand arm, which was connected to his right hand. As he swung his right hand, the sand arm clenched into a fist and smashed the more than 10 shadow monsters into pieces. However, while he was accumulating many yellow sandbags in the inventory with the smooth operation, a lightning bolt flew from the gate more than 10 meters away and killed several shadow monsters. Because he was distracted by the battle and did not use the sun disk in Purgatory to look around, he only noticed at this time that at the door, Riji Sakamoto was wearing a black leather jacket with a denim red scarf. Behind him, a huge monster was floating. The lower part was a miniaturized black pirate ship, and the upper part was a captain's skeleton in a blue shirt and black pants. The right forearm was replaced by a small cannon barrel, which was smoking, as if the lightning just came out of that cannon barrel. Qin Ren took a deep breath and shouted in his heart, "Captain, you trademark stole my head. P.S. Logically speaking, it will be available for sale at around 0:00 a.m. on the 1st, but sometimes there will be delays. If delays are taken into account, it will be available before 0:30. I will update 8 chapters in a row when it is available. As for rewards and updates, Will it be according to the old convention that 10,000 Qin coins will be rewarded for one more chapter? Considering energy, I'll say this first. I don't know if I can pay back all the rewards, Gooly Gugu. Also, because I have to rush back to my hometown for the ticket at 11:30 tomorrow noon, and will be back to work on the 9th. The updates from tomorrow, that is, after the 1st, until the 8th will be unstable. Thanks to book friends Huizhuning for the reward of 2,966 Qin coins, Huizhuan for the reward of 1,733 Qin coins, and Gentle Branches for the reward of 100 Qin coins. Chapter 122, Men Can't Be Too Fast. First update, please subscribe. Pirate Captain Kidd. The prototype is William Kidd, a Scottish captain from the United Kingdom. He originally served the United Kingdom. Later, during the War of the Grand Alliance, he captured a privateer under the order of the United Kingdom and carried out plundering activities in the Caribbean with the permission of the British officials. Because he had not encountered pirates for a long time, he robbed a merchant ship. Since then, he was wanted as a pirate and was publicly hanged. The prototype of Kaido Kid in Detective Conan is him. In addition, the prototype of Kid in the supernova of One Piece is also this William Kidd. Moreover, the phrase "Go find my treasure, somewhere in the sea" by Roger, the Pirate King, also comes from this Captain William. When I gallop on the sea, everyone calls me Captain Kidd. When I gallop on the sea, I do all kinds of bad things and violate the laws of God. When I gallop on the sea, I wander around, looking for prey, burning, killing and looting. When I gallop on the sea, I killed William Moore not far from the shore and watched his blood flow into a river. Goodbye, sailors of all ages who enjoy themselves drinking and having fun. I have to go. Come and find my treasure. Goodbye, beautiful girl from Lunan. I have to go. No one is willing to forgive me. Goodbye, I have to go, to suffer endless suffering, to be buried. A poem written by Captain Kidd before his death. As for the captain in LOL, the character prototype is the same as Blackbeard in One Piece, which is derived from the famous pirate Blackbeard Edward Teach in the History of Pirates. However, the prototype of the captain in LOL is actually quite vague, and it should be shaped by referring to multiple pirate captains in history. Whether it is related to Kidd or not, only the designer knows. When he was a child, he played a Monopoly mode of One Piece on a GBA bought by others. Because of that, he also worshipped the pirate culture for a while at that time. Because of the plot of Legendary Fisherman in Uji-io, he went to check a lot of things about pirates. This poem by William Kidd was copied in his notebook at that time to pretend to be a literary youth and erudite. Dark history. But later, because of the three mythical gods, he became fascinated with desert-related culture and fell in love with someone else. The many thoughts that flashed through Qin Ren's mind were only a moment. After taking a look at Sakamoto Rigi's personality mask Captain Kidd, Qin Ren immediately started to kill the monsters. The condensed sand monster arm collapsed again, dispersing into quicksand, and shot through the monster's eyeballs, hearts and other vital parts with strong force. In an instant, all the monsters incarnated by the Shadow Soldiers were broken. From the beginning, he could have used this method to destroy all the monsters, but for the sake of momentum, he deliberately condensed the Desert Dragon and summoned the Fire Dragon Purgatory to fight. Why? For momentum value, for extra gold coins. What else can it be? The Fire Dragon Purgatory, which was biting a monster and preparing to spit dragon breath at zero distance to attack, suddenly found that the monster it bit disappeared, and the swinging tail did not hit the target. Because the tail swung in the air, its body couldn't help but shake. After twisting his body and looking around, Purgatory realized that all of the soldiers around him had disappeared. However, because of the expanded vision of the sun disk in his body, he also noticed the dense quicksand particles around him, and instantly realized that he was killed by the Lord of Hades. As expected of Lord of Hades. While thinking, he cast his eyes on Rigi Sakamoto and his personality mask Captain Kidd behind him. Should he be killed too? However, it seems that he knows Lord of Hades. Noticing the look in Rigi Sakamoto's eyes, he came to a conclusion in his heart. At this time, a series of thoughts emerged in his mind. Could it be that Qin Ren ignored Purgatory, who originally looked like a person, but after knowing that it was a monster created by him, it now looks more and more like a beast. He is letting himself go more and more. Qin Ren had no idea that his will would affect the yellow sand space, and also affected the fire dragon purgatory formed by the fusion in the yellow sand space. The other party would become more and more like a dragon because of his will. Qin Ren just cast his eyes on Kamoshida and said in a deliberately contemptuous tone, "Hand over the treasure of the castle, and I will spare your life." Of course, this sentence is impossible to achieve, because the treasure of the castle is the core of the demon palace. Once the treasure is handed over, the demon palace will collapse, and the castle, as the embodiment of Kamoshida's desire, is what he pursues in his heart. Although ugly, it is real. The meaning of this sentence is the same as hand over all your family's property to me. In addition to angering the other party, there was no other result. As for why he did this, it was because Qin Ren's eyes were on the shadow Kamoshida, under the pink quilt. The pair of big hairy legs were bare on the ground. According to the plot of P5, the shadow Kamoshida will transform into a huge monster later. However, even if so many soldiers were killed, he still did not transform. What steps are required? Although he remembered some general things, he couldn't remember the exact process. At this time, Sakamoto Rigi couldn't stand it anymore. He shouted at Kamoshida, "Hey, Kamoshida, today you will also have a taste of having your legs broken." Captain Kid. Although he was persecuted by Kamoshida, Sakamoto Rigi didn't want to kill people to vent his anger. He just launched the attack with the idea of teaching Kamoshida a lesson. Behind him, Skeleton Kid, wearing a pirate captain costume, raised his right hand, and the cannon that replaced his palm gushed out a lightning-like energy attack, shooting towards Kamoshida's right leg. Although the Qin people noticed this situation, they didn't have time to defend themselves because of the distance. The golden lightning shook out several line chart-like trajectories in the air and hit Kamoshida's right leg. Ah! With a scream, the shadow Kamoshida fell to his knees. However, while screaming in pain, he recognized Sakamoto Rigi's identity and stared at him fiercely with eyes full of pain and anger. "Sakamoto, you, unforgivable." The next moment, the shadow Kamoshida, who was screaming in pain, suddenly twisted his body. His flesh and blood swelled, and his body expanded nearly 10 times as if it was forcibly injected with gas. The original yellow skin turned into a pink color, and a goat horn and a crown appeared on his forehead. A pair of brand new arms broke out of the flesh under his ribs. A humanoid monster with 4 goat horns. Is this the transformation? So fast for a man? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, A Man Who Doesn't Even Have a Wet Dream Is Useless. Second update. Please collect it. Qin people who have checked the background information of the monster incarnated by Kamoshida still remember it. The prototype of the incarnation of Kamoshida's shadow lust is called Asmodeus. He is a demon that appears in the Apocrypha, the story of Tobit, and the Jewish classic Talmud. In the occult book Solomon's Little Key, he is one of the 72 demons. He is the 32nd demon, with the rank of king, and commands 72 legions. However, his gender is female. Asmodeus is the queen of lust served by the 18 evil spirits. He is the demon king representing lust among the 7 deadly sins. He has 3 heads, namely a bull's head, a human head, and a sheep's head. He has a snake tail, holding a hell dragon in one hand, and holding a spear with a flag in the other hand. He can teach people mathematics, astronomy, geometry, and handicrafts, can give people true knowledge, make people invincible, can reveal the location of treasures, and can protect treasures. Under the influence of his online friend who likes strategy games and legends of gods and demons, and because he is a game modeler and often searches for various myths, and is also a loyal fan of Atlas, Qin Ren actually knows a lot about various legends of gods and demons, especially the settings of the 72 demons and the 7 deadly sins, which have been flooded to the point of being commonplace. Not to mention Asmodeus, He can even recite the 72 demons of Solomon backwards. The shadow Yoshida, who instantly turned into a demon, is slightly different from Asmodeus. He is just a male humanoid monster wearing a tattered pink quilt, a crown, goat horns on his head, and 4 naked hands. The huge tongue, which is longer than the body and is nearly 7 or 8 meters long, is swaying in the air. Can we only say that it is just a degraded version of Asmodeus's image? No, not only degraded, but also masculine. By the way, the characters in P5 all have prototypes, and the prototypes are basically men. Qin Ren looked at the demon Yoshida. The other person's right hands held a goblet filled with red wine or ordinary wine and a sharp knife, and his left hands held a whip and a fork respectively. In front of him, there was a trophy-like thing in front of him, which was filled with various things that looked like the lower body of a woman from the waist down. He has become a monster. At this time, Sakamoto Ryuji, who was shouting in surprise because of Kamoshida's sudden change, suddenly pointed at the wine glass in Kamoshida's right hand and shouted, "Takamaki, why are you there?" Damn it! Qin Ren turned his eyes and found that in the goblet in Kamoshida's hand, a blonde girl with twin ponytails wearing a sexy pink bikini was standing in the goblet, twisting her body seductively and shouting, "Go, go, Master Kamoshida." "Come on." Takamaki in P5, the first female member of the protagonist's group, a girl in the same class as him. According to the plot, before the protagonist Kurisu Akatsuki clears the first boss Kamoshida, he will meet Sakamoto Ryuji and Takamaki and ask them to join his team to act together. At the same time, there is a Cat Morgana, who will have 4 teammates before clearing the first boss. However, Qin Ren did not want to find them one by one to join his idea. After all, he is not Kurisu Akatsuki in the JRPG game, who can only choose one of 3 or 2 actions like a Gal game, but a completely free man. As for finding those evil people one by one in this world, stealing the treasures of their magic palace, making them lose their evil desires and repent, no, Qin Ren does not have that kind of leisure. It is more fun to let him brush the mobile game from morning to night than to do those things. What he wants to do is to kill all kinds of monsters and make himself stronger. As for why he wants to become stronger, what? Need a reason to become stronger? Then since you have encountered the golden finger of the system, make full use of it to make yourself stronger. Is this reason enough? Besides, isn't it more important to find the next Sun Disk than to play the game of Phantom Thieves with a group of kids under the age of 20? Qin Ren stared at the monster transformed by Kamoshida and answered Sakamoto Ryuji's question. This is the cognitive world. That Jiaowanin is just something imagined by this idiot with sperm in his brain. Just like the woman you dreamed of sleeping with. It's all fake. Qin Ren's indifferent voice, with the resonant DJ vibrato of Izir, was full of momentum. And his calm attitude also made Sakamoto Ryuji more convinced. After all, he just followed the other party's words, tear off your mask and face the real self, and successfully awakened himself to the personality mask Captain Kid. But I didn't dream of sleeping with a girl, sleeping or anything like that, Sakamoto Ryuji argued loudly. Who would believe that you, a man, don't have erotic dreams? Even women will dream of being teased by handsome guys or teasing handsome guys in return and then rolling in the sheets or something like that. Men and women are the same. Everyone will have erotic dreams, unless this person has a cold personality. That's another story. But it seems that the person you dreamed of having sex with was Takamaki, right? That's right, Takamaki is a mixed blood, with a good figure and beautiful appearance. It would be abnormal if she didn't have some. You dirty invaders. You are not allowed to be so presumptuous, the demon Kamoshida roared. Except for the arm holding the tall wine glass, the other 3 arms were waving continuously. The long whip was lashing at Sakamoto Ryuji, and the long sword was slashing at Qin Ren. Qin Ren subconsciously wanted to defend himself. But at this time, he noticed the movement behind him, so he stopped using the flat attack to attack the long sword to defend himself. A sandy yellow dragon breath flew out from behind him and hit the blade of the long sword that Kamoshida slashed at. Bang! With a crisp collision sound, the long sword broke away from Kamoshida's hand and fell to the ground, with the part that was hit as the center. The entire long knife, which was similar to a dinner knife, had already broken and twisted. The dragon's breath, whose impact force was comparable to that of a car crash, was concentrated on a very small area, and the damage caused was not only that. To describe it, it was like catching a bullet with bare hands. The right hand holding the long knife, the entire palm had exploded, leaving only a thumb and half a palm, and 3 fingers were directly shattered by the dragon's breath, and the splattered flesh and blood fell to the ground, turning into black and red fragments and dissipating in the air. Suffering such a heavy blow, the demon Kamoshida not only screamed in pain, but the disgusting long tongue swung back and forth in the air, hitting the wall like a chain hammer, smashing a big hole. On the other side, Sakamoto Ryuji, who had originally dodged to the side, was hit by the whip dash. Chapter 124, Face Project. It doesn't exist. Third update, please recommend. According to the original trajectory, the whip would not hit him after he dodged, but would only hit the ground. However, because the dragon breath of purgatory smashed the palm of the demon Kamoshida, the pain-inflicted Kamoshida's movements were deformed, and he happened to be thrown on the trajectory of Sakamoto Ryuji's pounce. Snap! With a heavy whip, Sakamoto Ryuji's body flew out and fell on the floor a few meters away. This shouldn't be my fault, right? Qin Ren blinked, and then turned his attention back to the demon Kamoshida, who was struggling to sit up straight. The other party waved the fork in his left hand, forked out something similar to a woman's lower body from the trophy in front of him, and stuffed it into his mouth. The 2 smooth thighs were still shaking back and forth when the demon Kamoshida stuffed them into his mouth, like a living thing. And the details? Nothing. Qin Ren's eyes moved to the trophy in front of the demon Kamoshida, and then to the crown on his head. The thing that Kamoshida is most proud of and relies on the most is his honor. In this spiritual world, all of Kamoshida's spiritual world has been materialized. His lust and desire for control have turned into the entire castle, and his pride and spiritual sustenance have turned into the crown and the trophy. According to the plot setting, if these 2 things are destroyed, the emotions of the demon Kamoshida will be affected. After the demon Kamoshida ate the half of the female body, one of the broken right palms recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. You rampant invaders, I must execute you. You recovered so fast, almost as fast as me. Qin Ren thought for a while, then maintained a proud and indifferent posture, and said to the fire dragon Purgatory, destroy that trophy. What? The demon Kamoshida stretched out his hands in surprise, holding the trophy in his arms. Trying to protect the trophy? This is the trophy I won the national championship. How can you idiots know its value? No, it is because you know its value that you will attack it. Are you stupid? Qin Ren complained in his heart. After hearing what the demon Kamoshida said, the fire dragon Purgatory, who didn't understand what it meant, smiled maliciously. I understand. As it spoke, it raised its head, and the pattern of the sun disk lit up in its body, and the light extended from its chest to its neck. The next moment, a huge sand-yellow energy ball gushed out of its mouth and flew towards the trophy held by the demon Kamoshida. With a crisp, metal-shattering bang, the entire golden trophy burst into countless fragments from the place where it was hit, and dissipated in the air. And the female half of the body that the demon Kamoshida used as a recovery medicine in the trophy also fell out, shattered on the ground like tofu, and then slowly dissipated. The demon Kamoshida noticed the shattered trophy, and the emotions of loss and disbelief were mixed together. How could it be? How could it be? This is my national championship trophy. He looked at the slowly dissipating fragments on the ground and muttered to himself, your reaction is too exaggerated. Although I know that this thing is the embodiment of Kamoshida's spiritual sustenance and pride of honor, it is hard to feel that the demon Kamoshida will be devastated by breaking such a thing. However, we should kill him while he is sick. Qin Ren, who was not sure whether his mind could be knocked out, raised his right hand forcefully, seriously, and exaggeratedly. With his movements, the sand-yellow energy vortex rolled up the wind and sand, and condensed a huge sand roll above his head. Spirit bomb. Although he wanted to shout that, he certainly couldn't do that. He should shout Shilin at this time, but Shilin's momentum doesn't seem to be strong enough. Then Breath of the Underworld. Qin Ren said expressionlessly with Izir's trembling voice. And this serious name made the fire dragon Purgatory behind him tense up and took a few steps back. The next moment, Qin Ren threw the shulin in his hand. At the moment of releasing the sand swept the surrounding sand into it, and the huge sand roll hit Kamoshida with great momentum. Moreover, in order to enhance the momentum, Qin Ren also deliberately controlled the surrounding sand, letting them speed up and swirl around, and also used his power to peel off the sand on the body of the Corona dragon possessed by Purgatory, creating a feeling that even the sand on its body was peeled off, because its body is maintained by consuming Qin Ren's magic power, and its strength is also related to Qin Ren's magic power. Not to mention other things, without more than 2.5 tons of power, it is impossible to destroy the body of the Corona dragon. However, it is different when Qin Ren peels off the sand himself. Fire Dragon Purgatory is also very clear about how powerful the possessed body is, but it has no idea that the Lord Hades in front of it is doing face engineering, and it really thinks that the power of the breath of Hades is very great. Although it is fake and face engineering in front of his own son to increase momentum and exaggerate the power, it is really useful. Qin Ren can feel his momentum rising. Moreover, he was not just doing a face-saving project. When the huge sand vortex flew towards the demon musician, and the huge wind and sand vortex swept the body of the demon musician into it, and the wind and sand with the power of a blade cut the demon musician into blood in an instant, the Qin people also exerted magic power on the wind and sand in the sand. Dozens of wind and sand injected with magic power by the Qin people hit the eyes, mouth, nose, ears and other vulnerable places of the demon musician at a very high speed. As mentioned before, the force that the Qin people can exert through the sand is constant, but the amount of sand can be different. When the power of a weight of nearly 2.5 tons is concentrated on dozens of sands with a total area of less than 1 square centimeter, the pressure that can be exerted is more than 250 megapascals, even exceeding the maximum pressure of ordinary pistol bullets. What kind of scene is it to shoot at a weak point such as the eyes, mouth and nose at zero distance? In an instant, blood splashed red. The original wind and sand vortex was instantly stained with blood. At this time, Qin Ren stretched out his hand and squeezed it hard. The blood-colored sand swirled, and the outside instantly took on the shape of being squeezed by the palm, as if it was really being squeezed by Qin Ren. Then, with the surge of mana, the sand condensed on the already broken body of the demon Kamoshida, and pressed down hard. Bang! The already blood-colored gravel directly seeped out bright red blood and flowed down. Qin Ren, who was trying hard to resist nausea and disgust, shook his hand without changing his expression. Chapter 125, Magikarp, Use Water Splash. 4th update, please give me a monthly ticket. The sand that lost Qin Ren's control did not scatter because it was connected by blood. In Qin Ren's inventory, there was also an extra D-level yellow sandbag. D-level is a direct kill/resistance/ equivalent to the strength of 1,000 to 10,000 troops. E-level is a little weaker. According to the classification of Academy City, it is level 5. Looking at Kamoshida's body that gradually turned into black and red fragments and dissipated, Qin Ren's nausea also dissipated a lot. Fortunately, Qin Ren comforted himself. However, when he turned his head and moved his gaze to Fire Dragon Purgatory, he found that it was hiding more than 10 meters away with a shuddering face. Speaking of which, a part of the soul that condensed into the body of Fire Dragon Purgatory, that mercenary, was killed by him in a similar way. Noticing Qin Ren's gaze, Fire Dragon Purgatory subconsciously swallowed his saliva and swallowed the non-existent saliva into the non-existent stomach. Ming, Lord Ming Shen. I didn't slack off. Is this a mental shadow? Looking at its shuddering appearance, Qin Ren couldn't help but complain in his heart. Be careful when showing off. Qin Ren now understood the meaning of this sentence. Although the increase in momentum value makes the speed of life and mana recovery quite good, but it seems that it is okay to let the only subordinate, son, half friend, and half pet be afraid of me. And Sakamoto Ryuji, who was fainted by Kamoshida's whip just now, woke up at this time. Captain Kid, who turned into a mask and wore it on his face when he fainted, also reappeared when he woke up. Fire Dragon Purgatory, who was a little afraid of Qin Ren, looked at Qin Ren and turned his eyes to Sakamoto Ryuji. Good morning, good morning. That's not right. Ah, it hurts. Sakamoto Ryuji covered his waist, and the memory of being knocked down by a whip slowly emerged. Damn, Kamoshida, it's disgusting. What the hell is this? But when he turned his eyes to where Kamoshida was, he only saw a blurry mass of flesh and blood without a head, which was slowly turning into black and red fragments and dissipating. He jumped up subconsciously, and then the pain made his body lose balance. He failed to stand up and fell to the ground again. What is this? A carp jump, or a carp splash? Qin Ren muttered to himself, and then looked around, because he used sand and sand bullets to attack the demon Kamoshida. The crown on his head was also destroyed by him. It seems that the crown on his head is the core of the magic palace Kamoshida Castle. Qin Ren can already feel that the whole castle has begun to collapse. If Qin Ren remembers correctly, according to the original setting, it is to inform the real Kamoshida that he wants to steal his twisted desires and let the real Kamoshida pay attention to his twisted desires. Then, the core of the desire will be embodied in the castle because of his attention. This is the general principle of the setting. Although Qin Ren can't understand it, he didn't say anything to the real Kamoshida like "I want to steal your heart." He is not interested in men. However, if the Master of Desire, which symbolizes Kamoshida's self and heart, or the part that is roughly equivalent to the soul, is killed, then it is reasonable to say that the collapse of the entire castle is not difficult to understand. The protagonists in the original work acted on the premise of not killing people, so they did not kill the shadow Kamoshida. After defeating him and taking the core of the demon palace, they ran away. However, Qin Ren did not fight with this idea as the basis, because, after the upgrade of Shurima's blood to the ascended bloodline, he has already known the fact that the yellow sand space needs a lot of souls. Although it is not clear what the souls are for, the only information known at present is the Fire Dragon Purgatory. Mix many souls together to create something. Revive Shurima, collect souls to revive the people of Shurima. Qin Ren has no idea why souls are needed, but he does need them. Qin Ren does not have a tyrannical mentality to kill innocent people, but he needs souls. So using the souls of bad people is awkward, right? For example, Kamoshida. As for the monsters in the impression space, they are the embodiment of the mind, which is very similar to the soul, but still seems to be true and is still somewhat different from the soul. For example, the Fire Dragon Purgatory, its main body is the soul of the mercenary killed by Qin Ren and the fragments of the 3 monsters killed before. Qin Ren scoured a lot of monsters yesterday, but when he wanted to imitate the condensation of the Fire Dragon Purgatory, gathering the fragments of the mind monsters, the black and red light balls together, but no new monsters were born. In other words, simply gathering the souls of these mind monsters together is not enough, and they also need souls like mercenaries? Or is it because the strength of the mind monsters is not enough, and they need stronger ones? For example, Yazishin? I don't know if the demon Yazishin can count. Qin Ren shifted his gaze to the yellow sand space and swept towards the large dark red light ball. There is no time to do extra things now. If the demon Yazishin doesn't work, then kill Yazishin. Just kill the real Yazishin and take his soul. Compared to killing ordinary people, it is more acceptable to target a scum like Kamoshida. Boom! At this moment, a huge rock fell from the top of the castle hall due to collapse and landed next to him. Lord Hades. Fire Dragon Purgatory opened its mouth and spit out a dragon breath, easily crushing the rocks falling on it, and then continued, although I don't know what's going on, this place seems to be collapsing. Should we leave? What happened? Sakamoto Ryuji next to him was horrified, rolled a few times, dodged a few rocks like an acrobat, and looked at Qin Ren standing there motionless, and asked, "Hey, Kurisu Akatsuki, we have to leave quickly. You can go first." Qin Ren glanced at him, then raised his right hand, and the power of the Millennium Key twisted a vortex in the air. Countless quicksands rolled up Sakamoto Ryuji's body and threw it into the vortex. I still have things to do. Looking at Sakamoto Ryuji who disappeared into the whirlpool, Qin Ren put away the Millennium Key and turned his sight back to the place in front of him. When he first came to this world, he encountered the Velvet Room. When he thought of wanting the Velvet Room, the yellow sand space attacked the Velvet. What Qin Ren wanted to do was to experiment whether he could plunder the impression space. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.